Chapter 11:17. He did not feel that his actions were something very shocking. It really is a Holy Spirit vein. Shao Chun, how did you get it? Could it be that you robbed one of the 9 ranks of the great families? That's not right, that's not right. The 9 ranks of the great families have at least one Emperor Wu. What exactly is going on? Lan Xiaobai appeared excited, his voice trembling slightly. Shao Chun did not explain. That experience was unbearable to recall. He had spent half a year in the dark underwater world, which did not see the light of day. It was not a good experience. Emo Chen's expression was rather indifferent. After the initial shock, she quickly recovered. In the Cloud Sea domain, Shao Chun had given Emo Chen too many shocks. She already had a strong ability to accept this. Shao Chen handed the 9 Holy Spirit veins to Emo Chen and said, Emo Chen, these are for you to use. You need Holy Spirit veins to repair the transportation formation. Just tell me when you need them. Use? Emo Chen and Lan Xiaobai both doubted whether they heard wrong. Could it be that Shao Chun had more Holy Spirit veins on hand? Using the Book of Heavenly Works, Mo Chun had broken through to the blue-robed Emperor realm. However, after that, her cultivation progress had been very slow. This was because she did not have enough resources. She could not be like the holy scions and the scions of the large clans, who had large amounts of resources on them, allowing them to raise their cultivation quickly. With these 9 Holy Spirit veins, Emo Chen was confident of reaching small perfection of the blue-robed Emperor realm in less than 3 months. That would save her at least 3 years. However, Emo Chen still felt uncertain as she asked, Big Brother Shao, is it really possible? Shao Chun smiled faintly. He knew what Emo Chen was thinking. She was afraid that she would not be able to repair the transportation formation after taking it. If that was the case, even if it could save her 10 years, she would not accept it. Opening his palm, another 9 spiritual veins origins flew out. Shao Chun looked at Lan Xiaobai and said, Brother Lan Xiaobai, you are about to break through to the blue-robed Emperor, so these are for you. A look of pleasant surprise flashed in Lan Xiaobai's eyes, but he did not reject it too much. He put away the 9 spirit veins origins and said, This time, it would be impolite to refuse. In the future, Xiaobai will repay this favor. At this moment, how could Emo Chen not understand that Shao Chun did not lack Holy Spirit veins? A joyful smile appeared on Shao Chen's face. After thanking Shao Chen, he placed the remaining 9 Holy Spirit veins into his interspatial ring. In the blink of an eye, 18 Holy Spirit veins were tossed out by Shao Chen without even blinking. However, Ao Jiao, who was in the Immortal Spirit Ring, said anxiously, Don't get any ideas about me. I will not take out the Holy Spirit veins that you gave me. Emo Chen knew how many Holy Spirit veins Shao Chen had. Before he went to Bright Moon City, he only had 20. After giving her 10, he only had about 10 left. Later on, when Shao Chen was free, he subdued a few more. However, there were no more than 30. Adding the Holy Spirit veins needed to repair the transportation formation, Shao Chen definitely did not have enough Holy Spirit veins. This was indeed the case. After giving the 2 Holy Spirit veins each, Shao Chen only had 5 Holy Spirit veins left. He still had to give these 5 Holy Spirit veins to you, Jin Lin, Yu Chenxi, and the others, 1 Holy Spirit vein each. It was not that Shao Chen was biased. Instead, he had calculated it. Given the cultivation of Yu Chenxi and the others, only 1 Holy Spirit vein would be enough for them to cultivate to the blue-robed Emperor level. Even the holy scions of holy lands would not be able to obtain so many resources before they became the blue-robed Emperor. No matter how much Shao Chen gave them, they would not be able to use up too many Holy Spirit veins before becoming the blue-robed Emperor. That won't happen. How can I take back what I gave to little Ao Jiao? Shao Chen smiled to himself. Ao Jiao asked, however, what about the Holy Spirit veins needed to repair the transportation formation? So, this was what Shao Chen was worried about. Although Ao Jiao said she would not give them to him, in reality, she was still concerned about Xiao Chun. There is no need to worry. I already have a plan. After speaking to Ao Jiao, Xiao Chun turned to Lan Xiaobai and asked, "Have you informed Jin Lin and the others?" Lan Xiaobai smiled and replied, "I informed them long ago. They are already waiting for us in the great hall at the top of the mountain. Let's go." The three of them left the dilapidated transportation formation and sped up, heading to the top of the mountain. Along the way, Lan Xiaobai asked doubtfully, "Xiao Chen, is it worth it to pay such a huge price to enter the secret realm? Perhaps there is nothing in there, or perhaps the three holy masters already took away the good stuff." Imochen said, "That should not be the case. If the three holy masters obtained the treasures in the secret realm, they would not have destroyed this transportation formation. My guess is that they entered the secret realm, but the secret realm's seal blocked them, preventing them from entering the treasury. Isn't that the same? If Xiao Chun entered the secret realm and there is a seal, he will still enter the treasury." Imochen continued, "That is hard to say. If the three holy masters could not open the seal, it might not be impossible for Xiao Chun to open it. Don't forget that he is the descendant of the Qing Emperor. The things in there might be prepared for Xiao Chun." There were many unknowns. What Imochen and Lan Xiaobai said made sense. Perhaps there was nothing in there, or perhaps one might not be able to open the seal in the secret realm. However, as long as there was a 50% chance, Xiao Chun would take the gamble. He absolutely could not let this chance slip by. After all, the Qing Emperor had destroyed the Minor Lane Temple back then. The Minor Lane Temple was an immortal holy land. Furthermore, it had a long inheritance. It definitely had a king's spirit vein. In other words, this secret realm that stored the Qing Emperor's spoils of war in the heavenly starry ocean might have a king's spirit vein. If that was the case, it would resolve Xiao Chen's urgent problem. Breaking through to great perfection, the blue-robed emperor was just around the corner. Xiao Chen's cultivation had already reached a bottleneck. Only a King Spirit Vein and the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 8th layer could help him break through. Neither path was easy. Not to mention subduing a King Spirit Vein, Xiao Chen did not have the ability to do so right now. Breaking through to the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 8th layer was still far away. Hence, Xiao Chen had not been cultivating the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation quickly. The reason was none other than the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 7th layer. Every time he broke through, he would have to undergo a lightning tribulation. Furthermore, each tribulation would be stronger than the one before. Xiao Chen was not ready for this yet. Unless he had no other choice, he would not choose this path to break through to great perfection, the blue-robed emperor. But now, if there was a ready-made royal-grade spiritual vein in this secret realm, then all the problems would be easily solved. Hence, regardless of success or failure, Xiao Qin had to gamble and go to the Dragon's Gate's secret realm. When Xiao Qin entered the hall at the top of the mountain, aside from Kim Taeho and Lord Jiu, all his old friends were present. A hearty chat was unavoidable. Lan Xiaobai had ordered people to prepare a banquet long ago. The group of people drank and chatted at the top of the mountain all the way until midnight before slowly dispersing. Everyone was somewhat tipsy. In the short 1.5 years, many things had happened, making them sigh. After everyone dispersed, Lan Xiaobai went to his study and picked up a brush and ink. After brewing for a while, he started writing the Tsing Lung scheme. On this day, the young Blue Dragon King arrived as promised. He brought the supreme glory of the Four Seas Hero Gathering and the last mountain tablet of the Dragon's Gate back to Heavenly Star Island, back to his conferred land. He even gave everyone a big gift. The smiles on everyone's faces were sincere. The Blue Dragon King had his own unique charm. Even though he was not good with words and rarely spoke at the banquet, everyone's eyes were on his face at all times. Taking advantage of his drunkenness, Lan Xiaobai wrote down 3,000 words in 1 hour. His brush moved like dragons and snakes, writing in one breath without pausing. After dabbing the last bit of ink on the paper, Lan Xiaobai signed off and recorded the time and date. Martial Epoch, Blue Dragon Calendar, Year 29, 8th of March, midnight. Blue Dragon Calendar. Others definitely would not understand what the Blue Dragon Calendar was. Only Xiao Chen understood. 10,000 years later, when the later generations spoke of this era, they would definitely use Xiao Chen's title, Blue Dragon, to represent this era. On the other side, Chen was flipping through ancient texts, helping Xiao Chen find the flaws in the Buddhist faith system. How to repair the transportation formation was also a headache for Chen. Yuchensi and the others took advantage of this rare opportunity to ask Xiao Chen for guidance on martial cultivation. Given Xiao Chen's current insight, cultivation, he naturally had no problem giving pointers to Yuchensi and the others. He would not be stingy either. Xiao Chen only finished giving pointers when it was almost dawn. Given that Xiao Chen did not have any selfish motives, everyone had their own gains. Furthermore, with the Holy Spirit veins that Xiao Chen gave them, the strength of Yuchensi and the others would soar rapidly in the near future. After everyone left, Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he took out the vellum that recorded the distribution of the Holy Spirit veins. Several places on the map had red crosses drawn on it, densely packed together. These were the places where Xiao Chen had already taken the spirit vein. As he looked at the map, Xiao Chen shifted his gaze to the sea region around Heavenly Star Island. He vaguely remembered that the vellum recorded several hidden Holy Spirit veins in the sea region around Heavenly Star Island that had not been discovered yet. After a while, Xiao Chen revealed a smile on his face. If he recalled correctly, there were 10 Holy Spirit veins scattered in the vast sea region around Heavenly Star Island. That would be sufficient to repair the transportation formation. Xiao Chen, don't tell me that you are going to subdue the Holy Spirit veins the moment you return without resting? Ao Jiao asked somewhat anxiously. Subduing Holy Spirit veins was not an easy task. This was especially so when one ran into some of the more complicated situations. It would be even more troublesome. Xiao Chen nodded seriously. I need to be fast. I keep feeling that something is wrong with the fake Buddhist sect on Black Flame Island. If I don't enter the Great Perfection Blue-Robed Emperor, I am not confident of dealing with the final Amitabha Buddha image. As the rising sun tore through the final traces of darkness before dawn, Xiao Chen took a look at this beautiful sunrise and did not linger. Without any hesitation, he jumped down the mountain and headed out to sea. Due to Xiao Chen's return, everyone was in high spirits during this trip to Heavenly Star Island. However, there were also some who could not eat or sleep in peace because of Xiao Chen's return. They gathered together to discuss countermeasures. Even when the next day arrived, they still could not make any progress. This group of people was none other than the leaders of the factions that occupied the many subordinate islands of Heavenly Star Island. Aside from Black Flame Island, Heavenly Star Island's subsidiary islands had 8 other islands with rich resources. These 8 factions occupied these islands. The leaders of each faction were all at least as strong as the Blue-Robed Emperor. Among them, the Metal Blood Sect's sect master, who occupied Red Stone Island, was the strongest, a Great Perfection Blue-Robed Emperor. Chapter 11:18. Now, the leaders of the 8 factions were gathered in the Great Hall of Red Stone Island's Metal Blood Sect. They had been discussing for most of the night, but they could not come to a conclusion. Aside from the Metal Blood Sect's sect master sitting in the middle, who appeared rather calm, the other 7 showed somewhat frustrated expressions. We cannot continue like this. Now that Xiao Chen is back, and we occupy the most resource-rich subsidiary islands of Heavenly Star Island, given his character, he will chase us away sooner or later. Even the 7 heroes of the Dragons group has been chased away by Heavenly Star Island. If we do not work together, we will not be a match for them. Working together is not a problem. However, even if we work together, we might not be a match for Heavenly Star Island. I heard that during the Four Seas Hero Gathering, the Blue Dragon King Shao Chun defeated all the outstanding talents with one move. I believe that even a great perfection blue-robed emperor would die if he ran into him. The Metal Blood Sect's sect master, Chun Ming, listened to the discussions of the others without batting an eyelid. He drank his tea and did not express any opinion. How about we go to Black Flame Island and look for that monk? Someone suggested carefully. Immediately the entire place fell silent, no one spoke. Several people looked at the Metal Blood Sect's sect master, wanting to see his expression. Everyone here knew that Chun Ming's ambition was the greatest back then. He was not satisfied with just occupying Red Stone Island. He wanted to occupy all the subsidiary islands. However, after running into a wall at Black Flame Island, he became obedient and no longer showed off his sharpness. Who knew? Chun Ming put down his teacup and said indifferently, "This is the only way. If we do not look for Zhuang Jinghe, all of us will have to leave with our subordinate." "Is it that serious?" an old man asked worriedly. The others also revealed contemplative expressions. It was absolutely impossible for them to give up on the resource islands here. The subsidiary islands of Heavenly Star Island were all top-tier resource islands. Even in the Black Sea, they were considered top-tier. They were much stronger than where they were originally. Chun Ming continued, "You all know that what I said is true. Even if we all work together, we will not be a match for Heavenly Star Island. There is no other reason. I have no confidence of defeating Shao Chun. Actually, before you all came to find me, I had already gone to find Zhuang Jinghe." When the others heard this, they were startled. Surprise appeared in their eyes. Chun Ming actually took the initiative to seek out the bloody monk, Zhuang Jinghe. What did he say? Yes. What did he say? Is there any way? A glimmer of hope ignited in everyone's eyes as they asked anxiously. A strange light flashed in Chun Ming's eyes. Then, he said calmly, it does not matter to him. His Black Flame Island is not afraid of the Blue Dragon King. As long as Shao Chun dares to go, he will not be able to return. Everyone couldn't help but feel a wave of powerlessness when they heard this, and their last trace of hope was gone. I haven't finished speaking. He has a condition. If you agree to it, he will help us eliminate the Blue Dragon King once and for all. What condition? Since they had already been forced to this extent, the leaders of the other factions did not have much of a choice. As long as the condition was not too overboard, they could tolerate giving up some resources. Chun Ming's expression changed continuously. After a while, he said, he wants to preach. He wants to build new temples on the islands that you all control. He also wants all the ordinary people on the islands to be believers and provide the power of faith. Damn! Isn't this cutting off our path of retreat? If we really eliminate Shao Chun, the temples on our islands will all be ticking time bombs. They will only increase his strength for nothing. The people here were not fools. They understood what Zhuang Jinghe's so-called preaching was up to. All of them started cursing. Chun Ming said, I know. That's why I also made a condition to him. It is fine if he builds temples on our islands, but he has to abolish them after this. The moment Chun Ming said this, everyone calmed down and started to think carefully. After a while, someone said, if that is really the case, it is acceptable. It will be fine as long as he does not refuse to leave. Right. With Sect Master Chun supporting us, there is nothing for us to be afraid of. At worst, we will just drag this baldy down with us. The group of people agreed one after another. This was the only solution they could think of. Chun Ming said in a clear voice, everyone, don't worry. As long as I, Chun, am around, that Zhuang Jinghe will not be able to play any trick. After discussing for an entire night, the group finally came to a conclusion. After discussing some details, the leaders of the other factions took their leave. After these people left the island, a stout figure walked out of the back door of the hall. His shiny bald head was exceptionally eye-catching. "Old brother Chen, your acting skills are pretty good." The people who just left would not be able to guess the identity of this person. It was Zhuang Jinghe, who had a huge grudge with Chen Ming. Chen Ming smiled casually. Then, he asked uncertainly, "Brother Zhuang, will your plan work?" Zhuang Jinghe replied indifferently, "You should be very clear on how strong the Amitabha Buddha Dharmic incarnation on my island is. If we can get this Amitabha Buddha Dharmic incarnation out, we will have no problem flattening Heavenly Star Island. At that time, after we deal with the Blue Dragon King and clear out the clowns of the other factions, the entire sea region around Heavenly Star Island will be under my control. As long as I control Heavenly Star Island, I will have no problem dominating the entire Western Sea in less than 100 years." A fervent look flashed in Chen Ming's eyes. He said, "Then, the matter you mentioned to me, don't worry. Right now, I am in need of manpower. As long as you are willing to work for me, I will naturally tell you the secret technique for absorbing the power of faith. The stronger you are, the more help you will be to me." Chen Ming rejoiced in his heart. He had already exhausted his potential. If he did not think of any other methods, he would only be able to become the great perfection blue-robed emperor for the rest of his life. With this Buddhist sect secret technique, he might have a chance of advancing to martial emperor. However, Heavenly Star Island is under the Bushan Palace, after all. Although we gave up on the 3 Holy Masters' lands, we can still openly occupy them. Will there be any problems? Chen Ming asked somewhat worriedly when he thought of something. Zhuang Jinghe laughed in disdain and said, "Theoretically speaking, the Red Stone Island that you are occupying now is also under the Bushan Palace. Will there be any problems?" "There doesn't seem to be." "Then that's it. Do you think that I do not know my limits? Even if the Bushan Palace's people come, I have my own ways to deal with them. I have someone to rely on as well," Zhuang Jinghe said mysteriously. The Metal Blood sect master felt suspicious. He did not know what Zhuang Jinghe was relying on for him to be so confident. "Just do as I say. Do your best to build those temples within a month. I will send people over to purify the believers. At that time, you can keep an eye on them." After Zhuang Jinghe finished speaking, he stood up and left. As Chen Ming watched the Shui monk leave, he showed a complicated expression. He knew that he was asking a tiger for its skin. However, this was Chen Ming's only chance to advance further. He had no other choice. Half a month later, Shao Chen, who had successfully subdued 10 Holy Spirit veins, sat on the Flood Dragon war chariot in the sky, appearing somewhat fatigued as he rushed towards Heavenly Star Island. For the sake of rushing for time, Shao Chen had been very tired in the past half a month. He had also been rather aggressive in his actions, sustaining significant injuries several times. After drinking a cup of 1,000-year flame, Shao Chen took out the vellum. Now there were 10 more red crosses on it. Now there were not many Holy Spirit veins left on the vellum. When Shao Chen collected all the Holy Spirit veins on the vellum, it would not be as easy to search for new Holy Spirit veins. Even now, Shao Chen found this somewhat inconceivable. Why did Jiang Tian give such a precious vellum to him? Could it really be that Jiang Tian wanted Shao Chen to kill the ghost Ho? Why does this reason feel so nonsensical, too vague? Shao Chen always believed that there was someone controlling the ghost Ho. Killing it was practically impossible. Sometimes, Shao Chen thought that Jiang Tian gave him the vellum, giving him some hope of advancing to martial emperor in 5 years. Could it be for some other reason, like someone asking him to do it? What kind of person could make a geomaster like Jiang Tian give the vellum to Shao Chen without any conditions? Furthermore, this person had to be closely related to Shao Chen. Shao Chen could not just watch him die at such a young age. The answer to the person who fulfilled these 2 conditions was already obvious. However, Shao Chen did not want to think in this direction. He kept finding it inconceivable. He had not even met that person once. Thinking about it gave him a headache. Perhaps he was just overthinking. Xiao Chen put away the vellum and opened the curtains of the war chariot. Then, he casually looked at the sea region below. While Xiao Chen was admiring the scenery of the sea, he suddenly saw a huge ship traveling on the sea. The fatigued expression on his face suddenly vanished, instantly turning grave. The huge ship headed for a subsidiary island of Heavenly Star Island. A majestic Buddha statue sat on the deck. This Buddha statue was the Amitabha Buddha statue that Xiao Chen had seen in the Enlightened Sense Temple on Black Flame Island. This accidental discovery put Xiao Chen on guard. Ignoring his fatigued mind, he walked out of the comfortable Flood Dragon war chariot and descended alone. Xiao Chen vaguely felt the aura of the blue-robed emperor on the huge ship in front. Not wanting to alert the enemy, Xiao Chen landed far away on the sea surface and casually pointed forward. Xiao Chen instantly executed the life bestowal spell. 4 or 5 lifelike seabirds flew out from the wave. Under Xiao Chen's control, the seabirds flew for 5 kilometers, chirping loudly. They circled the huge ship a few times before flying far away again. Xiao Chen, who was far away, waved his hand, and the seabirds returned to the water, no longer flying. The seabirds were rather meticulous. The huge ship was indeed carrying the Amitabha Buddha statue, just like the one Xiao Chen saw on Black Flame Island. When he heard this, Xiao Chen frowned. As the crewmen discussed, several subsidiary islands of Heavenly Star Island had similar situations. They had moved the various Buddha statues from Black Flame Island over. There was no more valuable information. These crewmen did not know much, and the seabirds did not stay for long, either. As for those subsidiary islands, Xiao Chen's thoughts were very clear. He would not take the initiative to snatch other people's territory. However, other people occupied the territory that originally belonged to him. He had to chase them out. Originally, Xiao Chen thought that after these people knew that he was back, they would leave. Chapter 11:19. Now, it looked like Xiao Chen's thinking was too simple. These factions that occupied the subsidiary resource islands of Heavenly Star Island did not even have a Heavenly Star Island. These factions that occupied the subordinate islands of Heavenly Star Island not only had no intention of leaving, but they even formed an alliance with Black Flame Island. As Xiao Chen watched the huge warship move further away, a shadow flashed in his heart. He muttered to himself, "I have to speed up the repair of the transportation formation. Soon, a huge battle will erupt." After returning to Heavenly Star Island, Xiao Chen first sought out Lan Xiaobai and told him about what he saw. When Lan Xiaobai heard that, he said, "There are 8 major factions in the surrounding subordinate islands. Among them, the Metal Blood sect is the strongest. The Metal Blood sect's sect master, Chen Ming, is a great perfection blue-robed emperor, equal to Elder Qin." Xiao Chen felt excited. He was rather clear on Elder Qin's strength. Elder Qin's cultivation had already reached the peak of great perfection blue-robed emperor. However, due to his age and potential, it would be hard for him to break through to consummation blue-robed emperor. Among the great perfection blue-robed emperors, Elder Qin was considered a peak. If a consummation blue-robed emperor did not make a move, it would be hard for a blue-robed emperor to find an opponent that could suppress him. For Xiao Chen, he would need at least 100 moves to defeat Elder Qin. If he was not careful, he would suffer significant injuries. Xiao Chen could not help it. The other party's cultivation was the real deal. Xiao Chen had been stuck at a bottleneck for so many years, unable to advance. He could only continuously temper his law energy. A fully formed heavenly seal was indestructible. Using the power of the world was as easy as raising a hand. Chen Ming's strength was equal to Elder Qin's. This was not good news. Furthermore, there was Zhuang Jinghe hiding behind him. Just thinking about it gave Xiao Chen a headache. Lan Xiaobai said, "There is no need to worry too much. Emochen has already recovered a small portion of the defensive formations linking the 7 outpost islands to Heavenly Star Island. As long as the other party does not have a consummation blue-robed Emperor cultivator, Heavenly Star Island will not be easy to take down. When Xiao Chen heard that, he rejoiced. He finally heard some good intentions. The Amitabha Buddha of Black Flame Island could not leave the island. Given that, Heavenly Star Island would be much safer. Wait, that's not right. Xiao Chen reacted and said, Emo-Chen, aren't you repairing the transportation formation? Lan Xiaobai smiled bitterly and said, she's been so busy recently. She's been running around everywhere and hasn't stopped at all. She won't listen to me no matter what I say. I was laughing at her for her groundless fears, but now that you're back, those forces won't dare to have any ideas. I didn't expect her to be right. These forces will definitely be driven to desperate action, unable to change their greed and fight to the death. Where is she now? Xiao Chen asked. Just at the summit, repairing the transportation formation. Right after Lan Xiaobai spoke, a strong wind blew and Xiao Chen vanished, flying towards the summit where the transportation formation was. Lan Xiaobai smiled faintly. Then, he said softly, I originally thought that after killing the purple-clad Marquis's descendant, the first to seek trouble would be the purple-clad Marquis. Unexpectedly, these small factions are the first to act. I have to call them out of closed-door cultivation in advance, Lan Xiaobai muttered to himself. Then, Lan Xiaobai prepared to call out Yu Chenxi from closed-door cultivation. Otherwise, he would not have enough manpower. On the platform of the transportation formation at the summit, Xiao Chen saw Emo-Chen, who was doing her best to repair herself. She could not hide the fatigue in her eyes, but her movements were still orderly and unhurried. She did not look fatigued at all. You're here. Emo-Chen only raised her head and glanced at Xiao Chen. Then, she lowered her head again and busied herself with her own matters. She pressed her palm to the ground and used her law energy to repair the broken formation patterns. There were also some messy formation patterns. Not only did she need to repair them, but she also needed to adjust them according to the layout of the entire formation. If she made a slight mistake, she would have to start all over again. This was a test of one's patience. Xiao Chen thought for a while. However, he did not tell Emo-Chen about what he told Lan Xiaobai. He asked in a relaxed tone, how's the progress? Based on the current progress, it will take another half a month or so. Xiao Chen was somewhat surprised. This progress was faster than he had expected. He had a rough understanding of formations before. When Xiao Chen inspected the formation, he was very clear on how much work was involved. Suddenly, a thought occurred to Xiao Chen and he asked, You have not slept for the past half a month, right? Emo-Chen paused, her hands moving somewhat unnaturally. Then, she forced a smile and said, For the blue-robed emperor, not sleeping for half a month is not a problem. You know that. I know. However, that is under the premise that I need to meditate and rest. Clearly, you even skipped the time to meditate. Go and rest for a day. Xiao Chen's eyes were like torches, seeing everything clearly. No way. Emo-Chen rejected Xiao Chen in a somewhat loud voice. Then, she said in a resolute tone, This secret realm is very important to you. If you can enter 1 day earlier, you should. Of the 5 years, 1 year has already passed. You only have 4 years left. If I can enter 1 day earlier, I will be able to help you gain 1 day. Unable to suppress her emotions, Emo-Chen brought up a question that many of her old friends of Heavenly Star Island had avoided. The two immediately felt surprised, and the place fell silent. Xiao Chen was surprised that Emo-Chen could be so meticulous. Emo-Chen was surprised that she blurted out the words that she had been hiding in her heart in a moment of desperation. After a while, Emo-Chen broke the silence. She whispered, Big Brother Xiao, you should go first. I alone am enough here. There's no need to worry about me. Xiao Chen said after some thought, For this kind of work, the more outsiders help, the more chaotic it will be. However, I cannot leave. Just do what you need to do. I'll stay here and watch over you. I can even help out a little. Imochen smiled and said, "How can I dare to let the Blue Dragon King help me? It's good that you watch over me. If I get bored, I can find someone to talk to." What Imochen did not know was that for the sake of subduing 10 spirit veins in the shortest time possible, Xiao Chun had not slept or meditated for the past half-month. If he had known, he would not have let Xiao Chun remain here. Just like that, as the sun rose and set, the two remained on the platform. They did not leave, making every second count. Although it was dry, it was not boring. After all, there were two people to talk to when they were bored. The time it took to repair the transportation formation was faster than Imochen expected, only 10 days. With the mission accomplished, the two of them heaved a sigh of relief. Imochen had a smile on her face as she looked at Xiao Qin with some reproach. She said, "You did not do anything. You might as well have rested for the past 10 days. Fatigue flashed in Xiao Qin's eyes. He smiled and said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's begin. I hope that this Dragon's Gate secret realm will not disappoint us." Imochen nodded and stepped into the transportation formation together with Xiao Qin. Xiao Qin did not hesitate, immediately activating the transportation formation under him. Immediately, a large net appeared before Xiao Qin. Countless motes of light interconnected with each other. The green motes represented the transportation formations in the Bushan Palace. One could directly teleport there. The blue motes represented the transportation formations of external factions. One needed to communicate with them and obtain their approval before one could teleport there. The red motes represented factions that were not on friendly terms with the Bushan Palace. One could not teleport there. The white motes represented the abandoned transportation formations of the Bushan Palace. Teleporting there was great danger. There were many of these motes of light. Only one azure-colored mote was the most special. There was only one of it. That was the location of the Dragon's Gate secret realm. One could only use the transportation formation under him to teleport there. No other transportation formation could teleport there. With some anticipation, Xiao Qin tapped the azure-colored mote in his consciousness. The two transportation formations started to connect. With a flash of light, the two vanished from the transportation formation at the same time. After 1 month, Imochen finally broke through the complicated and ancient transportation formation. The two successfully entered the Dragon's Gate secret realm. Not to mention what kind of difficulties and war spoils awaited the two in the Dragon's Gate secret realm, on the other side, the 8 great factions were nearing the end of their preparations for Black Flame Island. Under the leadership of the Metal Blood Sect's sect master, Chun Ming, the 8 factions moved out in full force, leading a large group of people to charge towards Heavenly Star Island. The formation of hundreds of warships looked very imposing. However, although there were many warships, only the Metal Blood Sect's Metal Blood warship was a King-grade warship. The others were all Sage-grade warship. Without any other choice, they could only use this warship as their flagship. The leaders of the 8 factions and the peak Grandmaster-level martial sages all gathered here. They all had grave expressions, looking like they had a lot on their minds. The many blue-robed emperors on the deck were very clear that they could only succeed in this operation. Failure was not an option. Otherwise, only death awaited them. The factions that they had accumulated over the years would crumble. "Brother Chen, how come I don't seem to see Zhuang Jinghe?" The one who spoke was the Lianyun gang's gang leader, Fu Lianyun. He was already 300 years old. His cultivation had already reached small perfection blue-robed emperor long ago. In the past 300 years, Fu Lianyun had led the Lianyun gang through the chaotic Western Sea, rising and falling. He had seen many ups and downs. However, at this moment, Fu Lianyun still felt very nervous. He was not completely confident. The reason was none other than the fame of the person he was dealing with. After the Four Seas hero gathering, the name of the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Qin, had spread throughout the vast heavenly starry ocean. Everyone knew about him. With one move, he defeated the outstanding talents everywhere, turning the Four Seas hero gathering, which should have been 100 flowers blossoming and many outstanding talents competing against each other, into a one-man stage. Since ancient times there had never been such a thing. This was incredible and flabbergasting. When the leaders of the other factions heard Fu Lianyun's question, they could not help looking at the Metal Blood Sect's Qin Ming. Like Fu Lianyun, they also felt uncertain. Before the battle started, their morale had already dropped. This would not do. Qin Ming smiled and said, "Everyone, don't worry. You are all clearer than me on the situation of Heavenly Star Island. Zhuang Jinghe will deal with the Blue Dragon King. As for the remaining people, leave that Haotian sect elder to me. The others are just a group of juniors. No matter how powerful they can't be a match for the few of you. Furthermore, our 8 factions are moving out in full force. We have more than double their numbers. We will definitely win this battle. I'll say something unpleasant. Things have already reached this point. If you still want to retreat, then you have lived all your years in vain." Chapter 11:20. Fu Lianyun quickly said, "Brother Chen, that is not what I meant. I am very confident in this battle. However, this Zhuang Jinghe was supposed to deal with the Blue Dragon King, Shao Chen. I still have not seen him. This is rather strange." Qin Ming patted Fu Lianyun's shoulder and smiled. "Don't worry. Right now we are in the same boat as Zhuang Jinghe. Our interests are the same. No matter what, Zhuang Jinghe will not dare to play any tricks. This will not benefit him at all." Hearing Qin Ming's explanation, the others relaxed slightly. "In that case, we are overthinking. We should not let our imaginations run wild before a great battle. Sect Master Chen, please don't take it to heart." Qin Ming had a smile on his face as he chatted casually with the group. However, he was smiling coldly in his heart. At this moment, the islands of the other 8 factions had turned out in full force. There were not many cultivators left to defend the islands. Zhuang Jinghe led the Buddhist sect disciples of Black Flame Island to the island where the Lianyun gang was. Then, he instructed indifferently, collect all the resources on the island first. Then, gather all the people on the island in a temple and hold a ceremony to forcefully purify them. Although the Buddhist sect disciples had set up temples on the various islands, they had not collected much power of faith in just 1 month. Furthermore, they had not been able to move freely. It was far from enough to get the Amitabha Buddha statue to leave Black Flame Island. Hence, Zhuang Jinghe had no choice but to come up with a plan with Qin Ming to evacuate the people of the 7 factions. After that, they would hold a Buddhist sect ceremony to forcibly purify the ordinary people. This kind of ceremony was extremely tyrannical. After the ceremony, all the ordinary people purified would die immediately, overdrawing on all their life force. If not for the urgency of time, Zhuang Jinghe would not have done this, killing these millions of ordinary people in batches. He could collect a vast amount of power of faith in a short time. However, after feeling satisfied for a while, the foundation would be damaged. At that time, even if he managed to take down Heavenly Star Island, it would be much more troublesome to nurture new believers. However, now that things had reached this point, Shao Chen had no other choice. He had to take down Heavenly Star Island. There was something in there that he needed to obtain. This time, it was rare for the other factions to cooperate with him. He could not miss this opportunity. When Lan Xiaobai, who was on Heavenly Star Island, heard what Shao Chen said, he immediately sent out scouts to keep an eye on the movements of the various factions. When the fleet formed by the 8 major forces had just set sail, he had received a detailed intelligence report from the City Lord Mansion. After Lan Xiaobai carefully read the intelligence report, his face immediately sank. Then, he slammed the intelligence report on the desk in front of him with a paw. "They really think that our Heavenly Star Island is easy to bully." Lan Xiaobai waved his hand and called the guards outside. He said, "Invite all the outer sect elders of the City Lord's residence over. Tell them to see me within 1 minute. Also, send someone to ask the inner court elders to come as soon as possible." The outer sect elders were experts that Lan Xiaobai had hired from the Black Sea over the past 2 years through the Kim Taeho Chamber of Commerce's funds. As for the inner sect elders, they were the direct subordinates of Yu Chenxi, Jin Lin, Yu Luku, and others. They were the people that Heavenly Star Island could absolutely trust. After Imochen arrived, she organized this complete hierarchy. There were also all sorts of detailed arrangements. Everyone had their own task. Even though the Dragon's Gate's signboard was not revealed, the island's basic hierarchy needed to exist. Otherwise, everyone would just be busy with their own things, forever a mess. By laying the foundation in advance, when the Dragon's Gate's signboard was revealed, everything would naturally fall into place. Imochen's thinking was even further ahead than that of Xiao Chen and the others. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A strong wind blew in the great hall. The first to arrive were not the outer sect elders in the city, but the inner sect elders like Yu Chenxi, who were cultivating on the distant mountain peaks. Firstly, because they were stronger, they moved much faster. Secondly, they had already received notice from Lan Xiaobai that something big would happen in the near future, so they were much more efficient. Lan Xiaobai looked at the 5 people in the hall and sized them up. Then, he smiled and said, "It looks like in this short 1 month, your strength has improved significantly. All of you are already great Grandmaster level martial sages." You smiled and said, "Hee hee. Not only did Big Brother Xiao Chen give me a Holy Spirit vein, but he also gave me a profound martial technique and a detailed explanation. I understood it the moment I heard it. If I still did not improve, I would really be a big fool." When Lan Xiaobai heard that, he felt somewhat startled. To think that Xiao Chen even had a profound martial technique. After all, several blue-robed emperors could not even obtain a profound martial technique in their lifetimes. Right now, elder brother Xiaobai might not even be a match for me. Lan Xiaobai smiled and did not argue. 10 days ago, Xiao Chen, who was only a hair's breadth away from the blue-robed emperor, successfully broke through. Of the 9 Holy Spirit veins, Xiao Chen had already refined 3. His cultivation stabilized at the small perfection blue-robed emperor. Before Lan Xiaobai broke through to the blue-robed emperor realm, he had a 30 to 40% chance of defeating a regular small perfection blue-robed emperor. Now that Xiao Chen had broken through to the blue-robed emperor realm, he was fully confident of defeating a regular small perfection blue-robed emperor. However, there was no need for Xiao Chen to expose his strength now. He looked at Yu Chenxi and waited for her to speak. Of the 5, Xiao Chen thought the most highly of this girl, who came from the Kunlun realm with Xiao Chen. Yu Chenxi's pretty face appeared rather calm. He said indifferently, "I did not accept the profound martial technique that Xiao Chen gave me. I only asked him for guidance on some things. I reformulated my own Morning Sun Fist and comprehended it for a month. Now, the might of the Morning Sun Fist is no weaker than a profound martial technique. In fact, it might even be stronger." When Lan Xiaobai heard that, he was stunned. He did not doubt Yu Chenxi's words at all. To be able to raise the might of a martial technique that one was familiar with to the level of a profound martial technique was indeed more horrifying than a regular profound martial technique. The things that belonged to one would always be the most convenient to use. Their compatibility with one's body was also the highest. The others spoke up one after another. In this 1 month of cultivation, they had all gained something. Their faces were filled with fighting spirit. They even somewhat anticipated the big matter that Lan Xiaobai spoke of. The 8 factions of the subordinate islands of Heavenly Star Island are working together. If I am not wrong, we will arrive at the 7 satellite islands in half a day. Lan Xiaobai spoke slowly, honestly explaining the situation before them. Right after Xiao Chen spoke, the smiles on everyone's faces disappeared, replaced with grave expressions. Unexpectedly, it was such a difficult problem. They had just improved their strength, and now they had to face a person on the level of the blue-robed emperor. "Elder brother Xiaobai, is this true?" You asked as she blinked. Lan Xiaobai nodded silently, confirming it once more. The atmosphere in the hall turned somewhat silent. However, silence did not represent weakness, cowardice, or fear. Instead, it was eruption. It would erupt in silence and not die in silence. Big Brother Xiaobai, you did not call us here to get us to desert, right? Carrying his saber on his back, Jean Lin's valiant face flashed with determination. He looked straight at Lan Xiaobai, displaying his firm determination. Lan Xiaobai smiled and said, "Desert? How can that be possible? They are just a bunch of old fellows who have lost their sharpness. Do they really think that we, the younger generation, can be bullied as we wish? I, Lan Xiaobai, have already endured enough. I only have one question. Who is willing to accompany me to the front lines?" As Lu Ku grasped the treasure sword in his hand, a brilliant light flashed in the eyes of the usually quiet Lu Ku. He said indifferently, "The blue-robed emperor is not enough to scare me." Xiao Xian, who looked gentle and pretty, said, "Xiao Xian is not that easy to scare, either." From the start to the end, Yu Chenxi's eyes remained calm. He calmly expressed his determination. "From the moment I stepped onto Heavenly Star Island, I never thought of handing this island over to someone else." Lan Xiaobai was very satisfied with the reactions of the others. He said, "Everyone says that there is an insurmountable chasm between the blue-robed emperor and a great grandmaster-level martial sage. However, that is not the case. In a battle, cultivation, martial techniques, mental state, aura, secret treasures, there are simply too many factors that can affect the outcome. In the past year or so, I have fought with many blue-robed emperors. I deeply understand that this is just a fixed mindset. A great grandmaster-level martial sage might not necessarily be able to defeat the blue-robed emperor. I can clearly say that your current conditions are much better than mine was half a year ago. At that time, I did not have any Holy Spirit veins to cultivate with or an expert like Xiao Chen to guide me. So, I absolutely cannot be afraid of battle. If I am afraid of death, I will really be dead." Over the past year or so, whenever the 7 heroes of the Dragon's people came to cause trouble, Lan Xiaobai and Elder Qin dealt with them together. Lan Xiaobai had a lot of experience fighting with the blue-robed emperor. No one doubted Xiao Chen's words. They listened carefully and memorized them. Ta, ta, ta. Footsteps resounded. The outer sect elders of Heavenly Star Island were slightly slower. However, they still arrived on time, not a single one missing. The outer sect elders were a group of Grandmaster-level experts hired with money. For them to be so efficient was already considered pretty good. Lan Xiaobai did not waste any time, quickly explaining the situation of Heavenly Star Island. Then, he instructed, "There is no need for you to fight with the blue-robed emperor directly. Just use the king-grade warship to prevent his subordinates from harassing us." In terms of loyalty, these outer sect elders could not compare to Yu Chenxi's group. Lan Xiaobai naturally had his own plans for how to assign tasks. "City Lord, don't worry. Just leave those miscellaneous soldiers to us," the outer sect elders answered in unison when they heard that. Lan Xiaobai continued, "For every warship destroyed, I will reward you with 100,000 black astral coins. If you do not want black astral coins, you can ask for secret treasures, medicinal pills, or cultivation techniques of equal value. Whoever destroys 100 sage-grade warships first will be rewarded with a profound martial technique. There is only one." The generous rewards immediately lit up the eyes of these outer sect elders, filling them with excitement. Profound martial techniques were something that even immortal holy lands could not casually take out. They would only reward the most outstanding true inheritors. In auctions, there were often situations where one could not buy one even if one had the money. It was impossible not to be tempted. Furthermore, Lan Xiaobai's words were very ingenious. There was only one profound martial technique. This way, he could stimulate the fighting spirit of these outer sect elders even more. Naturally, Lan Xiaobai had his own reasons for giving such a large reward. On the battlefield, aside from the peak combatants, one should not underestimate those weaker than them. Chapter 11:21. For example, when two equally matched blue-robed emperors fought an intense battle, a great Grandmaster-level martial sage suddenly appeared and could immediately decide the outcome of the battle between the blue-robed emperors. In a battle between two great Grandmaster-level martial sages, it went without saying which side held the advantage. Going by this logic, in a true battlefield, the one who could decide the outcome might be an insignificant cultivator. Theoretically speaking, this was entirely possible. City Lord, why don't we see the Island Lord, Blue Dragon King? In order to differentiate between Xiao Chun and Lan Xiaobai, Emochun had established a system of management. Lan Xiaobai was the City Lord, who managed all the affairs. Xiao Chun was the Island Lord, who maintained a sense of mystery and deterrence. Naturally, Lan Xiaobai could not tell this group of outer sect elders that Xiao Chun and Emochun had gone to the Dragon's Gate's secret realm. Even Lan Xiaobai did not know when they would come out or whether they would be in danger. If he told them the truth, it would definitely affect the morale of the army. Right now, this group of outer sect elders had the courage to fight against the allied army of the 8 factions mainly because of Xiao Chen's existence. Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chen. Just these 5 words were sufficient to stabilize the army's morale. Lan Xiaobai said, "The Blue Dragon King is in closed-door cultivation. If he is lucky, he will be a great perfection blue-robed emperor when he comes out. There is no need for us to make a move. He can deal with this group of people alone. Even if he is unlucky and cannot break through, he can rush over at any time." Forced by the situation, Lan Xiaobai had no choice but to come up with an excuse. Xiao Chen is in closed-door cultivation. There is a high chance that he will break through to great perfection blue-robed emperor. The moment Lan Xiaobai said that, the outer sect elders immediately became excited. The Blue Dragon King was already unbelievably powerful when he was only a small success blue-robed emperor. If he was a large success blue-robed emperor, he would be even more powerful. Lan Xiaobai smiled and led the group towards the City Lord's mansion's courtyard. There were 7 king-class battleships of different colors there, which Xiao Chun had snatched from the 7 heroes of the dragon. There was also a dragon-shaped warship that was even more eye-catching. This was the King-grade warship, the Dragon's Gate's warship, known as the King of Kings. As far as I know, the 8 major forces only have 1 King-class warship. We can deal with it. Although there are many battleships left, they are all Saint-grade. You will have to deal with more than 200 Saint-grade battleship. Lan Xiaobai honestly reported the information he obtained to the group of outer sect elders. 7 King-class warships against more than 200 Saint-class warships. It was a 50-50 chance. However, Lan Xiaobai had his own high rewards, enough to make this group of outer sect elders go all out. With such momentum, they would definitely have a higher chance of victory. After sending off the 7 warships with his eyes, Lan Xiaobai said to you, "I'll leave Heavenly Star Island to you. When you receive my message, activate the Dragon's Gate's heaven-locking formation. Our lives and deaths are in your hands." You nodded and said, "Elder brother Xiaobai, don't worry. You will not disappoint you." Lan Xiaobai rubbed Yu's head. This little princess had become more mature in Heavenly Star Island. If the clan head saw this, he would be very happy. "Let's go. We can't let Elder Qin wait too long on the outpost islet." From receiving the intelligence reports to dispatching the various forces, raising morale, and strategizing, Lan Xiaobai took care of everything. While Xiao Chen was not around, Lan Xiaobai managed Heavenly Star Island very well, preventing everyone from panicking when strong enemies arrived. "Come, let's go and meet with these 8 factions. This group of bastards. Not only did they snatch our territory, but they even want to chase us, the masters, out of Heavenly Star Island. I, Lan Xiaobai, want to see what kind of people they are." These inner sect elders, who knew that Shao Chun had entered the Dragon's Gate's secret realm, harbored rage as they boarded the Dragon's Gate's warship, prepared to die. Raise the sails and set sail. Fight for the Dragon's Gate. Even if we die, we will have no regrets. The Dragon's Gate's warship led the 7 King-grade warships through the clouds. In about 7 minutes, they arrived at the outpost islet. Then, they met up with Elder Qin. A group of 8 warships led all the elite cultivators of Heavenly Star Island out, waiting in formation. They're here. Soon, a group of warships surging with killing chi appeared at the limits of the sea's vision. They rode on huge waves and charged over. 300 warships gathered together. Compared to Heavenly Star Island's 8 warships, there was a clear visual difference. However, in terms of aura, Heavenly Star Island's 8 warships surpassed the other parties. The reason was none other than the 8 warships being bona fide King-grade warship. Any one of them was stronger than the other party's capital ship. Furthermore, there was the Dragon's Gate's warship, which was known as an unrivaled King-grade warship. It was impossible not to surpass the other party in terms of aura. On the 7-colored warship, all the cultivators of Heavenly Star Island, including the 7 outer sect elders, did not feel any fear at all. Instead, their morale soared. Clearly, the 8 factions had not expected the insignificant Heavenly Star Island to send out 8 King-grade warships at once. A commotion spread among the various warships. How were they supposed to fight? There was a difference of an entire grade. They could only use numbers to overwhelm the other party. Who knew how many people would die? This was completely different from their original plan of killing them easily. The upper echelon of the 8 factions had to personally send people to pacify the crowd for a long time before this small commotion slowly died down. Winds and clouds churned and waves surged. The seawater rose and fell endlessly, leaving a vast sea region between the 2 armies. The other party's Metal Blood warship broke away from the fleet and headed forward. Not knowing what the other party was doing, Lan Xiaobai stood on the Dragon's Gate's warship and waved his hand. He got the Dragon's Gate's warship to continue forward and block the other party. At the same time, he shouted, "Halt! This is Heavenly Star Island's Bushan Palace, the conferred land of the Blue Dragon King Shao Chun, personally appointed by the Thunder King." Mockery rang out on the Metal Blood warship. Chun Ming smiled coldly and said, "Who do you think you are to get the Blue Dragon King Shao Chun to speak to me? Also, don't use the Bushan Palace to pressure me. That will only make you appear cowardly. It will not give me any fear. Scram immediately. Our 8 factions can spare the lives of the small fries under the Blue Dragon King. That's right. Be smart and scram quickly. Otherwise, we will wash Heavenly Star Island in blood today. No one will be able to escape." The 2 warships faced each other on the sea. The leaders of the 8 factions were extremely arrogant, trying to regain some ground through their auras. However, the effect was not very obvious. The people on the Dragon's Gate's warship all had cold smiles on their faces. They did not fear this group of blue-robed emperor at all. As the other party spoke, Lan Xiaobai carefully sized up the situation. He was somewhat surprised that he did not discover the people of Black Flame Island. He wondered what that Zhuang Zhenghe was doing. The leaders of the various factions on the Metal Blood warship also discussed in whispers, communicating quickly. The other party's morale is very high. This will not do. When we fight it out later, we will have to pay a huge price. We have to think of a way to ruthlessly suppress them. Unexpectedly, this insignificant Heavenly Star Island has 8 King-grade warship. Sect Master Chun, you make the decision. Naturally, Chun Ming knew how important morale was when 2 armies fought. He looked around and came up with an idea. He looked at the people on the Dragon's Gate's warship and said, "You are Lan Xiaobai, right? It is not impossible for us to leave. We will each send out 3 people. It will be a best of 3. The loser will scram. Just a bunch of inexperienced brats. Aren't your ambitions higher than the sky? Do you dare to agree?" An old man on the deck purposely used his quintessence to provoke the crowd, making his voice echo for 5 kilometers over the sea. Everyone heard it clearly. That's right. It is not like our western sea does not have rules. Whoever's fist is bigger is right. If you are not capable, then don't occupy such a good place like Heavenly Star Island. Scram back to the Kunlun continent. The last sentence incited a collective response from the other party. Everyone on the 300 warships of the 8 factions shouted, "Scram back! Scram back!" Instantly, the other party turned the tables, their morale soaring. Now, they knew that the other party was provoking them. Even if the other party lost, they would not leave. However, they were still in a difficult position. It was a best of 3, and the other party was the blue-robed emperor. This was clearly bullying the weak, wanting them, the younger generation, to suffer. Chen Ming strode forward and walked to the bow of the warship. He looked at Lan Xiaobai and smiled coldly. "What's wrong? You don't dare? Without virtue and incompetence, why are you still lingering on Heavenly Star Island?" Cram. On the Dragon's Gate's warship, Yu Chenxi and the others could not help but look at Lan Xiaobai. Lan Xiaobai smiled faintly and said calmly, "I finally got to see what it means to be shameless. To think that a group of people who are only a few hundred years old can say such things." Just when everyone thought that Lan Xiaobai would reject, Lan Xiaobai changed the topic. He said coldly, "However, I still agree to it. Even though I know it is a trap, I still agree to it. There are some beliefs that you people will never understand. Since Heavenly Star Island is without virtue and incompetence, you still want the 8 factions to band together before daring to attack. With a big battle at hand, you still want to play these little tricks to regain morale. You have truly broadened the horizons of me, Lan Xiaobai." Lan Xiaobai's generous words rendered Chen Ming and the others speechless. They had not expected Lan Xiaobai's drive to be so strong. Before Chen Ming could finish, Lan Xiaobai took the initiative to say, "Chenxi, you will be the first to fight on behalf of my Heavenly Star Island. Even if we lose, we have to let them know. Our Heavenly Star Island is hot-blooded. Even the women are more manly than these old fellows." Lan Xiaobai's eyes filled with disdain. These words made the many cultivators of Heavenly Star Island feel their blood boil. "That's right. Our cultivations are indeed not high. We cannot compare to you old fellows who have lived for a few hundred years. However, we are hot-blooded, open and above-board, standing upright and upright." When Yu Chenxi heard this, he did not show any fear. Right after Lan Xiaobai spoke, he jumped to the surface of the sea. Then, he expressionlessly looked at the other party and said in a frosty voice, "Heavenly Star Islands Yu Chenxi seeks guidance from everyone. I hope you will not be stingy with your guidance." Originally, Chen Ming had intended to use the clearly unfair method of winning 2 out of 3 matches to force the other party back and lower the morale of Heavenly Star Island's side. Then, he would take advantage of the situation to charge over. Who knew? Lan Xiaobai directly agreed to this provocation and even sent out his own people before Chen Ming did. This put Chen Ming at a loss. He took 2 steps back and whispered, "Which of you will be the first?" After waiting for a while, Chen Ming looked around and discovered that no one was willing to be the first. These old men were all experienced people. They could tell that Yu Chenxi's cultivation had reached peak Great Grandmaster level martial sage. Furthermore, his aura was as sharp as a sword, boundlessly sharp. Chapter 11:22. In their opinion, they would definitely win against such a person. However, they would definitely suffer significant injuries in the process. Hence, no one was willing to be the first to go up. After a few excuses, the Lianyun gang's Fu Lianyun whispered, "Sect Master Chen, why don't you go up first? With Brother Chen's strength, you will definitely be able to deal with the other party in 2 or 3 moves." When Chen Ming heard this, he could not help flying into a rage. Screw off. That Lan Xiaobai was right. After living for several hundred years, there is not a single girl who is a sissy. I'll go up and deal with the other party, the Hautian Sect's Grand Elder. Stop dilly-dallying. It's you. Since it came to this, Fu Lianyun had to go up even if he did not want to. His figure flashed, and he landed on the surface of the sea. As he looked at Yu Chenxi, killing chi flashed in his eyes. I can only end this quickly. The longer this drags on, the more variables there will be. I have to think of a way. Fu Lianyun thought for a while and came up with a plan. He said, "Don't say that I'm bullying the weak. This old man will give you a handicap of 3 moves, giving you a chance to defeat me. Is that so? In that case, I really have to thank Senior. Don't regret it." Fu Lianyun smiled and said, "I'll regret it? Lass, just don't regret it. After 3 moves, this old man will defeat you in 1 move." Yu Chenxi did not reply. His face sank, and he circulated the morning sun fist's energy circulation in his meridians. Yu Chenxi's figure immediately turned hazy and indistinct, becoming unfathomable. Amid the thick mist, he looked very confusing. Fu Lianyun withdrew the smile on his face, and his expression turned grave. He sent out his mental energy but did not see Yu Chenxi's figure in this afternoon. What's going on? With my cultivation, why can't I see through this mysterious phenomenon? This girl is not simple. Fortunately, this old man kept an eye out. Otherwise, I might end up making a fool of myself by going up first. Calming herself down, Fu Lianyun began to circulate the law of heaven energy in her body with all her might, drawing upon the surrounding heaven and earth energy. Winds and clouds churned. Waves roared ferociously on the calm surface of the sea. Occasionally, waves shot into the clouds, rumbling like thunder. The blue-robed emperor's aura was fully unleashed. Fu Lianyun did not show any signs of carelessness. His aura slowly suppressed Yu Chenxi's. He was just waiting for the moment Yu Chenxi charged over to overtake him. Just as Fu Lianyun was unhurriedly raising his aura and cautiously facing Yu Chenxi's killing move, which was about to appear at any moment, the sound of water breaking through the sea rang out. In the next moment, the red clouds that filled the surroundings disappeared in an instant, and a bright light burst out. The intense light was so piercing that several of the spectators were caught off guard. They felt like their eyes were being pricked by needles, hurting them tremendously. What came out? When the spectators recovered their vision, they saw that the person who leaped out was actually Yu Chenxi herself. She was like the rising sun, bursting out of the sea with a bright light, sweeping away the last trace of darkness before dawn. The blazing sun was unstoppable. When her fist landed, everyone could see it clearly. Fu Lianyun's aura was slowly suppressed by her. The rising sun followed by the fate of bursting out of the sea. The flourishing of her aura was simply unimaginable. Fu Lianyun was caught off guard. His aura was actually completely suppressed by Yu Chenxi. In his haste, he could only raise his palm to block. However, he was confident that with his cultivation, even if his aura was suppressed, he would be able to withstand it. The fist and palm collided. On the surface of the sea, a huge water screen rose up around the two, covering the sky and obstructing everyone's vision. When the curtain of water fell and the rain fell from the sky, everyone saw an unbelievable scene. Even someone as strong as the blue-robed Emperor Fu Lianyun was actually knocked back a kilometer by Yu Chenxi's palm strike. Yu Chenxi's aura grew even more ferocious because of the might of this palm strike. The light on his body became even more dazzling, truly like the sun, not to be looked at directly. Back when Yu Chenxi sought guidance from Shao Chen had pointed out the strengths and weaknesses of the morning sun fist. The morning sun breaking through the morning sun was a very majestic concept. The moment the rising sun broke through the dawn, the energy that erupted was very strong. The advantages were obvious with one glance. However, the disadvantages were equally obvious: the lack of stamina. If one punch did not defeat the other party or severely injure the other party, the aura would immediately be exhausted. The method that Shao Chen thought of for her was to infuse the state of gentle water into this punch. The aura would not be exhausted at the start but would continue to rise. When the rising sun's aura was at its most ferocious, it would turn into the blazing sun of noon. When the blazing sun's might started to decrease, the aura would slowly settle, filling up like water. When the sun set, the aura that had been settled for a long time would erupt for the final time. Rising sun, and setting sun. When one reached the highest level, they could cycle endlessly. One would no longer have to worry about the problem of being too rigid and easily breaking. Of course, Xiao Chen had only pointed out a direction for Yuchensi. He did not mention the specific modifications to the cultivation technique and how to infuse the state of gentle water. This was all done by Yuchensi alone. After all, no one in the world could be more familiar with this fist technique than her. Based on the current situation, it was clear that Yuchensi had succeeded in the past month. The brand new morning sun fist already had a perfect embryonic form. When the many blue-robed emperors on the metal blood warship saw this scene, they were all astonished. This is a profound martial technique. Old Fu is going to fail. He should not have been careless and allowed the other party to make 3 moves. This is going to be problematic. The might of a profound martial technique is really incredible. No wonder there are often situations where one cannot buy it even if one has the money. The group of blue-robed emperors all frowned. They did not look optimistic about the situation before them. Only Chen Ming smiled coldly and said, "Don't underestimate Fu Lianyun. This fellow is very cunning." "What's going on? Brother Chen, did you see anything?" Everyone looked at Chen Ming in confusion. From the current situation, it was clear that Yuchensi had knocked Fu Lianyun back 1 kilometer with 1 punch. If there were 2 more punches, Fu Lianyun would definitely be severely injured. Chen Ming did not answer. He said indifferently, "You will know if you keep watching. Wait for my signal and prepare to launch an all-out attack." Yuchensi, who was hovering in the air, was already like the blazing sun, radiating a horrifying light and heat. A 7-colored bridge appeared under her feet. As she stood on the rainbow bridge, her second punch carried an even more ferocious aura as it charged over. Fu Lianyun's expression turned grave. She gathered all the law energy in her body on her right palm. Even before the fight started, the surrounding seawater already could not endure it. Fu Lianyun's energy caused huge waves to surge up and down. Boom! The fist and palm clashed again. This time, the impact was even greater. A continuous shock wave swept out in all directions, carrying the seawater with it. A large layer of the sea was shaved off like mud. A large, spiraling pit appeared in the vast seawater, and the sea level sank by 1 kilometer. Fu Lianyun moved back again. Blood leaked out of a corner of her lips. She was significantly injured. The might of a profound martial technique was displayed to its fullest in Yuchensi's hands. Even the blue-robed emperor was injured if he was careless. Good. On the Dragon's Gate's warship, Jean Lin could not help exclaiming. He laughed loudly and said, "Keep pretending. There is still 1 punch left. Let's see if you can still laugh." Everyone in Heavenly Star Island's group felt greatly encouraged. After injuring Fu Lianyun with 2 punches, everyone saw hope of victory. When Fu Lianyun landed, she vomited a mouthful of blood. She smiled and said, "The might of a profound martial technique is indeed extraordinary. Continue. There is still 1 punch left. Let's see what tricks you can play. Remember, you only have 1 punch left." Yuchensi did not dare to be careless. She knew that whether she could defeat her opponent depended on this crucial punch. After this punch, her opponent would not go easy on her. He would not give her so much time to store up power. To be cautious, Yuchensi did not hold anything back in this third punch. The bright light on her body slowly dimmed. Eventually, the scarlet afterglow of the setting sun appeared on her body. For the sake of maximizing the might of this punch, Yuchensi did not rush to make a move. Instead, she continued storing up power. This punch after the setting sun was the strongest move of the brand new morning sun fist. As long as she could bring out its full might, she was confident of defeating Fu Lianyun with one punch. The only problem was that she was not very familiar with this final punch and could not execute it as she pleased. However, that was not a problem. The other party was very arrogant. At the start, he said that he would let her make 3 moves first. Soon, the other party learned the consequences of his arrogance, what regret was. Hu Qi. However, just as Yu Chenxi was about to execute this punch, Fu Lianyun, who had been sitting down and preparing to defend, suddenly burst out with an overwhelming killing intent, bursting out with all of the blue-robed emperor's aura. Using the speed of a flickering light, Fu Lianyun arrived before Yu Chenxi, who was just short of executing the afterglow of the setting sun, in 2 or 3 breaths. Unexpectedly, Fu Lianyun went against the promise he made in front of everyone. After he numbed Yu Chenxi, he suddenly made a move before the 3 moves were over. Not giving Yu Chenxi a chance to scatter his cultivation, Fu Lianyun did not hesitate to make a move. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Little girl, you are still too inexperienced. In your next life, don't trust the words of others." Fu Lianyun sent out a palm strike. Before Yu Chenxi could scatter his cultivation, he was injured by this palm strike. Then, he suffered the rebound of his martial technique. His meridians flowed in reverse, and his meridians ruptured. He vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood. Like a kite with its string broken, Yu Chenxi fell back unsteadily. The setting sun looked like blood, scattering its radiance. Something strange happened. No one expected the situation to change in an instant. To think that an older generation cultivator like Fu Lianyun would use such a trick. Fu Lianyun said that he would let Yu Chenxi make 3 moves, but he only gave 2. After he numbed Yu Chenxi, he dealt a fatal blow. If Fu Lianyun used such a trick to deal with a cultivator of the same generation as him, it would be understandable. However, Fu Lianyun actually used such a trick on someone younger than him by more than 200 years. This was simply extremely despicable, flabbergasting everyone. When everyone on the Dragon's Gate's warship saw the weakened Yu Chenxi, rage burned in their hearts, and killing qi surged. Lan Xiaobai's heart sank. He clenched his right fist tightly and gritted his teeth. Lan Xiaobai had never been so angry before. He had not expected an older generation cultivator to be this despicable. Whoosh! Chapter 11:23. Lan Xiaobai's figure flashed, and he entered the void. In the next moment, he appeared in midair and caught Yu Chenxi. As he looked at the unconscious Yu Chenxi, who was still in pain, Lan Xiaobai's expression turned sullen and furious. "My apologies, young Master Lan. I was a little too heavy-handed. This girl is probably crippled," Fu Lianyun said in a strange tone, revealing a smile on his crafty face. Lan Xiaobai retorted coldly, "Heaven is watching what people do. You will get your retribution sooner or later." After saying that, Lan Xiaobai quickly carried Yu Chenxi back to the Dragon's Gate's warship. The reason was none other than the Metal Blood Sect's flagship charging over, leading 300 warships in a grandiose manner. Clearly, the so-called best of 3 and the loser withdrawing was just a pretense. Whether they won or lost, the other party would not leave. As long as they could deal a blow to Heavenly Star Island's morale, it would be fine. "Brother Lianyun, you did well. The moment you appeared, you crippled one of the other party's people. You managed to throw Heavenly Star Island's people into chaos and cause their morale to plummet. This time, we will definitely succeed in taking down Heavenly Star Island." Chen Ming praised Fu Lianyun, who had returned to the warship. Fu Lianyun said, "This time, I am going all out. In attacking Heavenly Star Island, either you die or I die. I hope that Sect Master Chen can invite Zhuang Jinghe to make a move in the end." Chen Ming patted Fu Lianyun's shoulder and said, "Don't worry. As long as Shao Chen appears, Zhuang Jinghe will definitely appear and help us block him." Right now, we just need to focus on killing this group of inexperienced brats until not a single one remains. On the Dragon's Gate's warship, Lan Xiaobai showed a sullen expression as he suppressed the rage in his heart. He calmly made a decision to retreat and activate the Dragon's Gate's heaven-locking formation, defending the outpost islets to the death. The Dragon's Gate's heaven-locking formation was partially repaired. Without a consummation cultivator like the blue-robed Emperor, no one would be able to break this formation. It would be sufficient to block these 8 factions that came with surging auras. Unfortunately, this formation was only partially repaired and could not be maintained for long. It could only operate for 3 days. Unless absolutely necessary and in the most dangerous of times, he absolutely could not activate it. Originally, Lan Xiaobai had intended to use the advantage of the King-grade warship to fight it out with the other party, delaying for as long as he could to give Xiao Chen as much time as possible. But now, because of Yu Chenxi's injury, the people on his side were all furious and unable to calm themselves down. Participating in battle in such a state was extremely dangerous. The slightest carelessness could result in death. He had no choice but to give up on his original plan. Right now, they could only hope that Xiao Chen could come out of the Dragon's Gate's secret realm within 3 days. Otherwise, Heavenly Star Island would be finished. What made him feel slightly relieved was that he had not seen any forces from Black Flame Island since the beginning. The key characters of both sides, Xiao Chen and Zhuang Jinghe, did not appear. From a certain point of view, as long as one of the two appeared first, they would immediately be able to influence the situation of the battlefield. Who was going to appear? Zhuang Jinghe was currently conducting purification ceremonies on island after island. He forcefully purified everyone on the islands, leaving no one behind, including the families of the leaders of the 8 factions. His methods were cruel and bloody. The islands were like hell on earth. How could ordinary mortals be a match for these people? No matter how many of them there were, they were just like ants, an extremely miserable sight. As for Xiao Chen and Chen, after entering the secret realm, they walked for a long time before finally arriving at the place where the treasure trove was suspected to be. Along the way, they ran into several dilapidated restrictions and the remains of all sorts of mechanisms and puppet beasts. This was sufficient to show that someone had been here long ago. However, when they arrived at the foot of the mountain where the treasure trove was suspected to be, Xiao Chen and Chen heaved a sigh of relief. There was an ancient stone door on the mountain, under the rocks that had fallen off. It was tightly shut without any cracks at all. It should not have been opened before. Of course, they could only be sure after they entered. After glancing at the tightly shut stone door in front, Xiao Chen calmed himself and decided to test it out first. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he arrived before the stone door. Then, he punched the tightly shut stone door. Chen wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Bang! The stone door did not budge at all. Instead, it bounced back with a huge force. The impact knocked Xiao Chen back. Cracks appeared in his internal organs, which showed how strong the rebound was. In terms of physical strength, Xiao Chen would find it hard to find an opponent for the blue-robed emperor. If it were anyone else, they would have been shaken to death by such a rash attack. "Are you all right? Why did you become so anxious?" Chen asked out of concern as she rushed over. Xiao Chen circulated his energy and circulated the blue dragon body nourishing art. After a few breaths, the cracks in his internal organs had all healed, not leaving any wounds behind. Xiao Chen spat out a mouthful of turbid qi. Then, he frowned and said, "I was somewhat rash. I feel that there is no way to forcefully open this stone door. Even if Emperor Wu came, he would not be able to open it. I am sure that no one has touched the things in there." Chen nodded and said, "It looks like this stone door blocked the 3 holy masters' land. However, you are a descendant of the Qing Emperor, yet you blocked this stone door. Do you need some kind of token to open it?" As the two spoke, they slowly arrived before the stone door. Then, they carefully sized it up, trying to see if they could find any clues. The ancient stone door on the mountain wall had blue dragon patterns carved on it. It looked extraordinarily mighty and tyrannical. After searching around the stone door for a long time, Xiao Chen could not find any clues. He could not help feeling somewhat discouraged. After spending a month without sleep or rest, in the end, he was blocked outside the treasury, unable to enter. It was easy to imagine how depressed he felt. Back then, the Qing Emperor led the Dragon's Gate in the heavenly starry ocean and fought many battles. He destroyed many sects and killed many experts. It was easy to imagine how valuable the war spoils were. However, Xiao Chen could not enter. "Big brother Xiao, come and take a look at this," Imochen suddenly said. She seemed to have discovered something on the cliff wall not far from the stone door. Xiao Chen quickly walked over. He saw that Imochen had cleared out a rhombus-shaped indentation on the cliff wall. All sorts of rocks protruded from the cliff wall. If one did not look carefully, one would not notice this indentation. Xiao Chen revealed an expression of joy. "How did you discover it?" Imochen smiled and said, "Have you forgotten? I am an expert in mechanisms and divination. You saw my abilities on the trip to the treasure mountain. There is nothing complicated about this stone door. As long as you have the token, you can open it. Without the token, no matter how capable you are, you will not be able to open it. It looks simple, but it is actually incredibly tyrannical. Big brother Xiao, think about it. Do you have a Dragon's Gate token that fits this indentation?" Xiao Chen thought for a while and immediately thought of something. Then, he took out the blue dragon medallion and said, "Imochen, take a look and see if it is this." Imochen received the blue dragon medallion and compared it. Then, she exclaimed in pleasant surprise, "That's right. It is this." After saying that, she placed the blue dragon medallion into the indentation. Indeed, it fitted perfectly. As the blue dragon medallion fitted into the ancient stone door, the engraved blue dragon patterns on the door slowly gave off a light. Rock fell off, revealing the stone door's true appearance. The stone door revealed its true appearance. It was a pair of well-made bronze doors. There was a plaque on the door with the words, "Dragon's Gate Treasure Trove" written on it. The light did not diminish. Xiao Chen and Imochen exchanged glances. They both saw joy in each other's eyes. The door was about to open. However, for some reason, even after an hour had passed, the bronze gate that had revealed itself had not moved at all. It had not moved at all. The two's expressions slowly turned somewhat unsightly. Unexpectedly, the door still did not open. What was the problem? Why did the door not open? The two felt that it was strange. Based on the mysterious phenomenon of the bronze doors, the blue dragon medallion should be the right token. However, why did the door not open? Imochen removed the blue dragon medallion and quickly thought about it. The design of the stone door was very simple. It did not touch too much on the mysteries of divination. As long as one had the token, they should be able to open it. Xiao Chen frowned heavily. He did not know what was going on. The treasure trove was right before them, but they could not enter even though they had the key. Such a depressed feeling was very stifling. Might as well not go in at all. You gave me hope and then disappointed me. What is the meaning of that? Suddenly, Imochen thought of something. She said, "Big brother Xiao, drip your essence blood on the blue dragon medallion and try again." Xiao Chen found it strange. However, under Imochen's urging, Xiao Chen did as she said. He infused his essence blood into the blue dragon medallion before placing it into the indentation again. Ka-cie. This time, there was practically no wait. The bronze doors instantly opened, revealing themselves. A cold wind blew out from inside, kicking up a lot of dust. The instant the doors opened caught Xiao Chen off guard. After a while, he exclaimed in pleasant surprise, "Imochen, how did you think of this?" A smile appeared on Imochen's face as she said, "This is a backup plan that the Azure Emperor left behind, a method that he set up as insurance. Even if someone else snatches away the blue dragon medallion, they will not be able to open this Dragon's Gate treasure trove unless they are a descendant of the Qing Emperor. It is a very simple method, but it ensures that this Dragon's Gate treasure trove will not fall into the hands of outsiders. Xiao Chen felt enlightened. So, that is the case. After thinking it through, he realized that the answer to the question was actually very simple. Come, let's go in and take a look. Let's see what the Qing Emperor has collected. The two showed expressions of anticipation. After they calmed their emotions, they strode into the Dragon's Gate treasure trove. The first thing that came into view was a mountain of spirit stones, one after another, and each pile was like a small hill. Xiao Chen took a quick look. Without exception, they were all superior-grade spirit stones. Spirit stones were the foundation of a martial artist's cultivation. For weaker martial artists, upper-grade spirit stones were extremely tempting. Most of the large sects gave out superior-grade spirit stones as a stipend. Before Xiao Chen advanced to Grandmaster-level martial sage, superior-grade spirit stones were his main source of cultivation. However, as Xiao Chen's cultivation slowly increased, superior-grade spirit stones became less and less helpful to his cultivation. Eventually, he gave up. Chen exclaimed in shock, "There is a total of 100 piles here. I estimate that each pile has 5 million superior-grade spirit stones. That is to say, there are at least 500 million superior-grade spirit stones in front of us." Chapter 11:24. With such a large number, it is already more than enough to develop the 9 ranks of the great families. Xiao Chen thought to himself, with this large number of spirit stones, he could nurture any talented descendant in Heavenly Star City, providing the Dragon's Gate with an endless supply of blood for its future development. As the two strolled through the pile of spirit stones, they arrived before a stone door. Then, they got blocked again. The path to the next hall was not smooth. A dust-covered combat puppet with its head lowered stood on both sides of the stone door. After 10,000 years, this combat puppet, which had once been incredibly strong, was now lifeless, showing no signs of activity. Chen took a look and said, "This is an Emperor-grade combat puppet. If it were in perfect condition, it would be as strong as Emperor Wu." Xiao Chen felt startled in his heart. How strong was the Dragon's Gate in the past? It could even create Emperor-grade combat puppets. Crack, crack, crack. Just as Xiao Chen was thinking of a way to open the stone door before him, the various joints of the combat puppet with its head lowered started moving, giving off creaking sounds. This startled Xiao Chen and Chen. They pushed off with their feet and retreated, raising their guard. A moment later, the combat puppet suddenly raised its head, and within its eye socket, there were 2 faint flames burning in its eye socket. The weak flames gave off a weak feeling like they could be extinguished at any moment. However, no one dared to underestimate the aura of this combat puppet. The instant it raised its head, it forced the 2 back again. When the combat puppet saw the Blue Dragon King's insignia on Xiao Chen's chest, its hostility vanished. Is the current Blue Dragon King so weak? How far has the Dragon's Gate fallen? Even this small reserve treasure trove requires the Blue Dragon King to come and collect. Is there no one left in the Xiao clan's direct bloodline? A hoarse mechanical voice came out of the mouth of the battle puppet. This greatly shocked Xiao Chen and Chen. Unexpectedly, this combat puppet had its own thought. It could adjust itself and think clearly, no different from a normal person. However, he seemed to have lost track of time and did not know what was happening outside. Xiao Chen composed himself and said, "Senior, the Qing Emperor is already dead, and the Dragon's Gate was destroyed 10,000 years ago. The Xiao clan has already been forced into the Sky Dome realm, far away from the Kunlun realm. 10,000 years? Has Dragon Sect been destroyed?" The battle puppet did not seem to be able to react, not daring to accept the reality before it. How could the Qing Emperor die? He was unrivaled, sweeping through the world. The immortal god emperor, the reincarnated corpse king, the demon god Jui, the master of the seven seas, the abyssal demon emperor, and the Hades hierarch. Which one of them could be his match? How could he die? Shao Chun said, on the path of a martial artist, if one doesn't become a god, it's hard for one to escape death. Senior, please calm down. Although the death of the Qing emperor is shrouded in mystery, it is an indisputable fact that he has fallen. The Dragon Gate no longer exists. The truth was very cruel. However, Shao Chun still had to say it. After a few explanations, the mysterious combat puppet finally accepted the truth. However, the two flames in its eyes turned even more illusory. After some communication, Shao Chun learned the other party's identity. When it was alive, it was a war venerate of the Dragon's Gate. After it died, it used a ghost race secret technique to seal its soul into the treasure trove, continuing to serve the Dragon's Gate loyally. According to what the other party said, the Dragon's Gate's War Venerate was an honorable title that could only be obtained after achieving extremely great military merits for the Dragon's Gate, surviving 10,000 battles without dying. Only these War Venerates could continue serving the Dragon's Gate after death. Every War Venerate was at least a greater Heavenly Emperor Wu when they were alive. At its peak, the Dragon's Gate had a total of 100 War Venerate. It could be said to be extremely strong. The matters of the world are really hard to predict. After I woke up from my sleep, 10,000 years had passed. Since you opened this Dragon's Gate treasure trove, you have to follow the rules of the Dragon's Gate. You can obtain as much as you are strong. The Dragon's Gate treasure trove will not be something you can casually take just because you are a descendant of the Qing Emperor. The mysterious puppet stretched out its hand and grabbed a spear on the ground, pulling it into its grasp. Shao Chun and Imo-Chen exchanged glances, somewhat surprised that such a thing happened. Imo-Chen sent a voice projection to Shao Chun. Right now, he is in a bad state. His soul is already at the point where it can scatter at any moment. As long as the battle starts, he will die immediately. If you want to open this stone door, you have to defeat me first before you are qualified to enter. If you do not have the courage, you can just take the spirit stones outside and leave. The combat puppet looked at Shao Chun as it held its spear horizontally in front of the stone door. Shao Chun hesitated for a while before saying, "In that case, I choose to leave. In the future, when I have time, I will come down often to accompany Senior." Coward! The combat puppet seemed to roar from the bottom of its heart as it pointed its spear at Shao Chun. Its voice trembled as it said, "Who gave you a choice? Who made you so weak? Don't make me, a Dragon's Gate's War Venerate, look down on you. Draw your saber and make the choice you truly have to make." His trembling voice reverberated in the spacious hall, making it seem very desolate. This was seeking death, using its own death to force Shao Chun to take the path to the next hall. The Qing Emperor was no longer around. The Dragon's Gate was already destroyed. The glory of the past had turned to dust. However, the Dragon's Gate's War Venerate of the past was still that proud and undying War Venerate, filled with glory, willing to die for the Dragon's Gate. Unfortunately, this dream is too long. When I open my eyes, the sky has already flipped and the earth has already toppled. I am still me. However, the world is no longer the world of the past. Shao Chun, draw your saber. Don't be a coward. Don't forget your identity. Suddenly, the weak flames in the combat puppet's eyes burned brightly, giving off a boundless light. The thick layer of dust on the armor rustled as it started to peel off. Then, an azure armor with the words, "War Venerate" on the chest slowly appeared. Shao Chun's expression turned grave as he slowly pushed Imo-Chen away. With a flip of his hand, he held the lunar shadow saber horizontally in front of him. He did not know how to describe the feeling in his heart. Shao Chun bowed. There were thousands of things he wanted to say in this bow. Bang! 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 The former War Venerate, now a combat puppet, started running quickly. After 10,000 years, no one had maintained this combat puppet. Time was a merciless saber. The former emperor-grade combat puppet no longer had its initial ferocity and nimbleness. Many of its internal parts were already damaged. However, when the combat puppet ran, the entire space trembled. Its nimble movements, horrifying aura, and impeccable stance all made this move look incredibly horrifying. All of these made this move incomparably terrifying, its aura surging up into the sky. Shao Qin knew that this was just the final radiance of the setting sun, just a facade. Soon, the other party's originally weak soul would burn up and vanish from this world. Shao Qin leaped into the air. This former Dragon's Gate's war venerate sent out hundreds of spear images, interlocking with each other, creating a shocking scene. This spear strike was extremely magnificent. It was the most shocking spear strike that Shao Qin had ever seen. Clang, 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 clang. However, when the humans arrived, the battle puppet's armor parts fell off. They fell off one by one and spontaneously combusted in the air. By the time they landed on the ground, only a pile of ashes was left. Just as it was about to reach Zhang Xian, more than half of the combat puppet's body had already disappeared. It had all fallen off and burned into a pile of ashes. It would probably burn into nothingness before it could even reach Shao Qin. A furious roar came from the remaining half of the combat puppet's head. It was filled with deep unwillingness and boundless hope. This Dragon's Gate war venerate used the last of his strength to hurl the spear in his hand at Shao Qin. The moment the spear shot out, half of the face was immediately burned to ashes. In the last moment, Shao Qin vaguely saw a smile. It was not a smile of relief. Instead, it was a smile of relief. Shao Qin had made his choice, and his efforts had not been in vain. The Dragon's Gate war venerates were people of the Dragon's Gate. In the end, Shao Qin still did not draw his saber. The instant the spear flew at him, Shao Qin tilted his head slightly and stretched out his hand to grab the spear. Looking at the pile of ashes on the ground, Shao Qin remained silent for a long time. The remnant heat of the spear seemed to be able to feel the hot-bloodedness and loyalty of this Dragon's Gate war venerate. After putting away the spear, Shao Qin walked over to the pile of ashes. Everything had been burned to ashes, except for a badge that still shone brightly. Even after the flames, its light did not diminish. Shao Qin took it out and blew the ashes on it. It was the badge with the words, Dragon's Gate War Venerate. As Shao Qin held the badge tightly, his heart felt heavy. Big brother Shao Qin, are you alright? Imochen asked out of concern when she saw that something was wrong with Shao Qin's expression. Shao Qin stood up and forced a smile. Then, he held the War Venerate badge in his hand and said, I'm fine. Imochen said with a serious expression, Big brother Shao, don't overthink. Senior, he left very happily. I saw his last smile. He hoped that you would continue down this path. Imochen will accompany Big brother Shao down this path. Shao Qin entered deep thought. Then, he handed the War Venerate badge to Imochen and said, This badge is for you. Imochen revealed a joyful smile as she received the badge. After taking a look, she said, Dragon's Gate War Venerate, are you going to give me this title? However, Imochen is still very, very far away from this title. Shao Qin smiled and said, It's fine. I believe in Imochen. This day will come. Imochen felt happy in her heart as she put away the badge. Then, she started to head to the next hall with Shao Qin. The stone door there had already silently opened, allowing them to enter without any obstructions. The second hall of the treasure trove was filled with piles of black astral coins. The number was similarly startling, more than 100 million black astral coins. When Imochen saw this, her eyes lit up. The most basic material for refining secret treasures was the minerals in black astral coins. With so many black astral coins, it would be possible to mass-produce king-grade secret treasures in the future. There was also a battle puppet standing guard in this hall, and its reaction was exactly the same as the previous one. After finding the Dragon's Gate War Venerate's badge in the ashes, Shao Chun and Imochen continued on to the next hall. Just like that, Shao Chun passed the hall with superior-grade spirit stones and black astral coins. Then, he passed the hall with secret treasures, secret manuals, medicinal pills, and divine materials. Most of the secret treasures were sage-grade, with a few being king-grade. There were no emperor-grade secret treasures. Chapter 11:25. As for cultivation techniques and secret manuals, they were rather messy. The weakest were earth-grade martial techniques and cultivation technique. However, there were not many profound martial techniques that Shao Chun needed. There were many kinds of medicinal pills. Shao Chun looked through them one by one and discovered that these medicinal pills were not very effective for people above the blue-robed emperor. For people below the blue-robed emperor, these medicinal pills were extremely tempting. They would be of great help to cultivation. The war spoils that the Dragon's Gate collected in the heavenly starry ocean were placed in the various great halls in an orderly manner. However, Shao Chun did not see what he wanted the most, so he could not help feeling disappointed. Could it be that the King's spirit veins that the Dragon's Gate obtained after destroying the Minor Lane Temple had already been used up 10,000 years ago? If that was the case, it would be somewhat unfortunate. No matter how many divine materials, spirit stones, or secret treasures there were, they would not be of any direct use to Shao Chun. These were all the basic resources needed to establish a sect. By relying on the various treasures in this treasure trove, it would be sufficient to support a huge sect for 100 years. Although there were many treasures in astonishing numbers, there were simply too few that could be of use to someone of Shao Chun's cultivation, practically none at all. Could it be that the peak items were all stored in the savage battlefield's Blue Dragon Palace? However, after thinking about it, Shao Chun felt that this was not right. The Blue Dragon Palace should be storing the treasures passed down by the Dragon's Gate's direct descendants. However, this should not have much to do with the peak war spoils of the heavenly starry ocean. The war spoils of the heavenly starry ocean should be in Heavenly Star Island's treasure trove. There was no stone door in front of the great hall that contained the divine materials. That was to say, the path here was already cut off. Imochen, what do you think is going on? Shao Chun asked. Something is wrong. Along the way, I looked carefully and did not find a single peak item. This is definitely not normal. I think there should be a separate secret room to store these peak items. Imochen analyzed with a serious expression. However, we have to find this place ourselves. Shao Chun frowned and said, if there really was such a place, those seniors from earlier should have told me. Since those Dragon's Gates War Venerates acknowledged his identity, there was no reason for them to hide it. A light flashed in Imochen's eyes. She looked at Shao Chun and said, perhaps they have already given us the answer. Shao Chun's heart skipped a beat. Imochen must have thought of something. Otherwise, she would not have said that. As expected, Imochen said softly, how many war venerable emblems have you collected along the way? Shao Chun thought for a while. Aside from the hall he was in, which contained divine materials, he had collected war venerate badges in the other halls. Including the one in Imochen's hand, there was a total of 5. Imochen smiled softly and said, the answer might be in these 5 war venerable badges. In the ancient era, 5 was the highest. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth form the 5 elements, and they develop all things in the world and even all the secrets of the universe. Is it that mysterious? Shao Chun asked. Even the mysteries of the universe were revealed. Imochen giggled and said, actually, I don't believe it either. These are all distant legends from the immortal epoch. The more common ones are the various 5-element formations. This hall with divine materials is actually arranged according to the 5 elements. Look over there. It is all metal divine materials. There are no impurities at all. This is metal. Look to the north. If you look carefully, you will discover that it is all divine materials formed from the fossilization of ancient divine trees. That is wood. As Imo-chan pointed out the divine materials, she meticulously differentiated them according to 5 elements: wood, water, fire, and earth. When they arrived, Imo-chan led Xiao-chen through the pile of divine materials, looking for a groove in every place. The war venerate insignia happened to fit perfectly into it. When the final war venerable emblem was placed in, the entire hall started to tremble intensely. Xiao-chen felt like the world was shaking. The 5 connected halls in front separated and spun around the hall below, materializing some kind of profound 5-element formation. After a while, a hole opened in the center of the hall, revealing a staircase leading underground. Xiao-chen immediately walked in, and Imo-chen followed slowly with a smile. At the end of the staircase was an average-sized stone room flickering with 9-colored spiritual light. When Xiao-chen saw this scene, he could no longer hold back the joy on his face. 2 simple and unadorned wooden shelves leaned against the wall. All sorts of rare items were placed in each shelf. At the end of the path was a platform. Paintings hung on the wall, depicting the past sect masters of the Dragon's Gate. The portrait of the Qing Emperor was placed in the center. 3 brocade boxes sat on the wooden table under the paintings. Each box looked very simple and unadorned, giving off an extraordinary aura. A brown prayer mat sat in front of the wooden table, looking very ordinary. Based on the decorations, this was where the Dragon's Gate kept its peak war spoils. There was a formation carved with golden blood on the floor of the stone room. Xiao-chen gently tapped it. He felt that this should be the blood of a deity race martial emperor expert, which could be called divine blood. However, it was of a much lower quality than the divine blood used to seal the heavenly flame's origin flame in the Blue Dragon Palace. The owner of this blood should be an ordinary deity race martial emperor, not a peak god king expert. However, this was not what Xiao-chen cared about. What he cared about was the item sealed in this formation. It was a clump of 9-colored spiritual light, the King Spirit Veins origin. This was Imo-chen's first time seeing such a divine blood formation. Her eyes filled with extreme shock. After advancing to martial emperor, even an ordinary person's blood would become extraordinary, what more a deity race martial emperor. According to ancient legends, the deity race came from the distant shore of the starry heavens. They had a noble bloodline. In their world, ordinary people would become gods the moment they were born, enjoying supreme reverence. In the Kunlun realm, after the 100-Race War, the deity race outshone others. If not for the Qing Emperor appearing 10,000 years ago, the Kunlun realm might have been ruled by them long ago. However, 10,000 years had already passed. Now that the deity race's luck had recovered, they regained their former prestige. Even in the distant heavenly starry ocean, they still held a significant reputation and could not be underestimated. How could Imo-chen not be shocked when she saw the blood of a deity race martial emperor being drained like an animal to form a formation? When Xiao-chen saw the item sealed in the divine blood formation, he could not help feeling happy. King Spirit Vein. There really is a King Spirit Vein here. Xiao-chen asked excitedly. Imo-chen, can you break this formation? Imo-chen squatted down and studied it for a while. Then, she smiled and replied, fortunately, this formation is not used to stop outsiders. It is just to prevent the spirit vein from leaking out. This is really extravagant. So much deity race martial emperor's blood is just a simple formation. Xiao-chen suppressed his excited expression and said, in that case, let's break it. It's best not to. Xiao-chen gave Imo-chen a strange look, waiting for her explanation. Imo-chen said slowly, this formation is too crude. Once it is broken, the aura of the King Spirit Vein will immediately leak out. At that time, the entire Western Sea will know about the commotion. As you know, there will be consequences. Xiao-chen had not thought of this. He calmed down and thought for a while. However, he was not in a rush. He already saw the king's spirit vein. It was right before him and could not fly out. If he thought about it carefully, he would be able to find a way to deal with it. Let's not care about this for now. Let's look at the other things. Xiao Chen recalled that there were many treasures in this place. They were all things that could interest him, so he took stock of them first. There were simple restrictions on the wooden shelves, used to seal off spiritual energy, preventing the treasures inside from rotting and breaking as time passed. This is a profound cultivation technique. It is not simple. Emochan opened one of the restrictions and exclaimed in pleasant surprise. There was a huge difference in value between a profound cultivation technique and a martial technique. Profound martial techniques were still traceable and could be seen in auctions. However, they could not be bought. As for profound cultivation techniques, they were even harder to find. This is a king-grade medicinal pill, the Divine Essence Pill. It can directly raise the blue-robed Emperor's cultivation. To think that there really is a medicinal pill that can raise the blue-robed Emperor's cultivation. I have only read about it in an ancient text. The medicinal pill's recipe was lost many years ago. This is an Emperor-grade secret treasure. I remember that this was the sect-guarding treasure of the 9 ranks of the great families of the heavenly starry ocean 10,000 years ago. Unfortunately, it seems to be half broken. Compared to the piles of treasures in the hall outside, the number of items on the shelves was incomparable. However, the value of these treasures was several times higher. The two were dazzled and pleasantly surprised. After taking a final count, there were 6 profound cultivation techniques and 11 profound martial techniques. These were all obtained by the Dragon's Gate after it destroyed the other sects of the heavenly starry ocean. There were 100 king-grade medicinal pills, 10 peak king-grade secret treasures, 1 damaged emperor-grade secret treasure, and some miscellaneous items. Every item here was useful to Xiao Chen. However, he did not particularly need them. The one that excited him was still the king's spirit vein. Xiao Chen's cultivation had already reached the peak of the small perfection blue-robed emperor. No matter how many resources he had, they would be useless. As for the profound martial techniques and cultivation techniques, he did not lack medial grade or superior grade ones. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen got Emochan to put away these items. He intended to leave these for Yuchensi, Emochan, and Lan Xiaobai. The treasures on the shelves could allow them to quickly increase their strength in the blue-robed emperor realm. They could truly rival the resources of the holy scions of the immortal Holy Lands. After passing through the divine blood formation and arriving beside the prayer mat, Xiao Chen focused on the 3 embroidered boxes on the table. Then, he bowed slightly to the portraits of his predecessors. Xiao Chen opened one of the embroidered boxes, which contained a jade strip. He sent in his spiritual sense and discovered that the jade strip contained the Dragon's Gate's refining technique. It contained a complete set of Dragon's Gate secret treasures. The Dragon's Gate battle armor, the Dragon's Gate warship, the Dragon's Gate war banner, the Dragon's Gate war weapon, the Dragon's Gate totem, and even the manufacturing method for a Heaven Dragon city were all in there. Xiao Chen picked up the jade strip and thought about it. This was a good item, unlike the treasures outside, which were all snatched from the other sections. This was the foundation of the Dragon's Gate. Otherwise, even if the Dragon's Gate was re-established, it would just be for show. It would have no connection to the Dragon's Gate of the past. Originally, Xiao Chen thought that such things would be in the Blue Dragon Palace. After all, that was the largest treasury of the Dragon's Gate. Chapter 11:26. Unexpectedly, there was a jade strip containing the Dragon's Gate's refining technique. This was truly a pleasant surprise. Among the jade strips, Xiao Chen was more interested in the Dragon's Gate totem and the Heaven Dragon city. He had heard of the Dragon's Gate battle armor, soldiers, and war flags before, so he was not unfamiliar with them. As for the Dragon's Gate totem and the Heaven Dragon city, this was his first time hearing about them. After thinking for a while, he handed the jade strip to Emochan. He knew a little about refining. He knew a little about refining, but compared to Mo Chun, who had the Book of Heavenly Works, he was definitely much weaker. It was more appropriate to hand it to her. As the saying went, one should make the best use of one's talents. There was no need to keep everything to oneself. After receiving Xiao Chen's jade strip, Imochen checked it and felt incredibly excited. This was probably the treasure that she was the most excited about in the Dragon's Gate treasure trove. Xiao Chen opened the second brocade box and saw a mysterious black medallion. He could not tell what material it was made of. A Buddha statue was carved on the front of the medallion. This Buddha statue looked extremely strange, different from the various Buddha statues that Xiao Chen had seen before. This Buddha statue had 8 hands covering its eyes, nose, ears, mouth, navel, heart, and other parts. It looked extremely strange. Imochen, what is this? Xiao Chen asked Imochen, who was at the side. Not long ago, Imochen had read through the ancient Buddhist texts. She should have some knowledge of this. This is a Buddhist medallion, an ancient Buddhist sect ornament. It is similar to the Buddhist sect's heavenly beads and bracelet. However, this Buddhist medallion is even more ancient. There are many ways to make Buddhist ornaments. Imochen said, in Orthodox Buddhism, unless one is an esteemed monk or the head of a temple, one is not allowed to wear ornaments. There are strict rules and restrictions. Only Buddhist medallions are ornaments that do not have many restrictions. With the blessing of an esteemed monk, they can be given to junior generation disciples or people who believe in Buddhism. They can be used to seek good fortune and ward off calamity. This Buddhist medallion has the image of a masked Buddha. It is a great Buddha that is best at seeking good fortune and warding off calamity. Furthermore, this is an 8 hands masked Buddha. It is of extremely high standards. Normally, it is 2-handed. Not only can it protect the wearer's body from harm, but it can also protect the mind from temptation. Sure enough, for it to be placed in a brocade box by itself, this amulet must be quite useful. It should be the spoils of war from destroying the small Thunder Temple. The items in the first 2 boxes did not disappoint Xiao Chen. As for the third box, Xiao Chen could not help but look forward to it even more. He opened the mirror box and found a yellowed ancient book inside. It was extremely old. Xiao Chen flipped it open and skimmed through it. The content recorded inside shocked him. It was actually a detailed method of how Buddhism absorbed the power of faith and how to cast a Buddha statue. There were many rituals of the ancient Buddhist sects that allowed the Buddha statue to receive the prayers of the believers and how to repay the prayers. This ancient book should have come from the Minor Lane Temple, the Immortal Holy Land from 10,000 years ago. The content was very detailed and there was everything that one could think of. The only thing missing was how to convert the power of faith into cultivation. However, that did not matter. Xiao Chen did not need to use this to cultivate. In his opinion, such a shortcut was not something that one could cultivate on their own. No matter how high one's cultivation was, it was just a paper tiger. What made Xiao Chen happy was that with this mysterious veil of the Buddhist sects, it was no longer mysterious to him. It would be easy to find the other party's weakness. What is it? Why are you so happy reading it? Imochen asked, finding it strange when she saw Xiao Chen's expression. Xiao Chen smiled and handed it over. Take a look at this. Imochen received it and took a few glances. Then, she exclaimed in pleasant surprise, "This is great. I found a lot of information in the ancient books, but there were only some vague fragments. Now we do not have to worry about the secret of Black Flame Island. Right. After we go out, we will destroy this fake Buddhist sect. It swindles people and acts like bandit. Furthermore, it pretends to be benevolent. It is too much of a threat to Heavenly Star Island." Imochen looked at the divine blood formation and asked, "However, what do you intend to do with this King Spirit vein? Unless we invite a peak expert like the Thunder King or a Hautian Prime, it will be too difficult to take away the King Spirit vein silently." Xiao Chen frowned and thought hard. For now, he did not know what to do. Xiao Chun did not want to refine this entire king spirit vein. With his current cultivation, he was far from being able to consume a king spirit vein. If he did so, he would only explode. At the very least, he would have to reach the level of Emperor Wu before he could consume a king spirit vein. Xiao Chen wanted to use the king spirit vein's pure spiritual energy and vast quantity to break through his small perfection blue-robed emperor level. After that, he could use holy spirit veins to continue cultivating as long as they were of high quality. However, right now, the king spirit vein was completely sealed. Once Xiao Chen broke the formation, the mysterious phenomenon of the king spirit vein appearing would be a huge problem. If he went back and forth to find the Thunder King and the Haotian Prime, he would spend a lot of time. The gains would not make up for the losses. There was no way to touch this spirit vein. He could see it but not obtain it. You are really an idiot. Don't you see that there is a prayer mat in this secret room? This secret room is filled with treasures. Don't you find it strange that a prayer mat suddenly appeared? Just as Xiao Chen was preparing to go out and brainstorm for a solution, Ao Jiao's voice suddenly came from the Immortal Spirit Ring. She mentioned something that Xiao Chen and Emo Chen had overlooked. That's right. Why is there a prayer mat out of nowhere? Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. Why is there a prayer mat out of nowhere? Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. Then, Xiao Chen remembered that there was a secret realm in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion in the lower realm. The prayer mats there were connected to a spirit vein. Thank you, little Ao Jiao. Xiao Chen could not help laughing in his heart. It turned out that the problem that plagued him was so simple. At the crucial moment, Ao Jiao performed a great service. When Xiao Chen arrived before the prayer mat, he said to Emo Chen, "There is no need to rush to leave. This prayer mat might be connected to a king spirit vein. I should be able to use it to break through the bottleneck of the small perfection blue-robed emperor." Emo Chen felt somewhat surprised. She asked, "Your bottleneck requires a king spirit vein to break through?" "Yes. The purity of a holy spirit vein is not high enough. The chances of using it to break through the bottleneck and form the heavenly seal are too low." Xiao Chen sat cross-legged on the prayer mat. After he answered, he closed his eyes. Xiao Chen calmed himself and slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. The instant he circulated his cultivation technique, the sound of a torrential flood rang out in Xiao Chen's ears. That was an auditory hallucination caused by the vast amount of spiritual energy. As the purple thunder divine incantation drew in the spiritual energy, it looked like roaring dragons pouring into Xiao Chen's meridians, looking extremely horrifying. If Xiao Chen was not careful, his meridians might burst. The golden divine blood formation started to give off a faint light. The 9-colored clump of light flickered endlessly. However, not a single strand of spiritual energy leaked out. Emo Chen, who was standing at the side, heaved a sigh of relief as she held the secret manual in the third brocade box. However, there was still some worry on her face. A king spirit vein could only be used by Xiao Chen to break through the bottleneck of the great perfection blue-robed emperor. How difficult would it be for Xiao Chen to advance to martial emperor? There were still 4 more years. That was simply too short. Emo Chen sighed in her heart. Then, she glanced at Xiao Chen and quietly moved to the side to read quietly. While Xiao Chen was breaking through the bottleneck, he did not know that Heavenly Star Island had already reached its most dangerous moment. Originally, the Dragon's Gate's heaven-locking formation could last for 3 days. However, after Zhuang Zhenghe rushed over and smashed down with the Amitabha Buddha's palm strike, the situation instantly reversed. The defenses of the 7 outpost islets were completely destroyed. The Heavenly Star Island cultivators had no choice but to shrink the defensive perimeter of the formation to its limits and retreat to Heavenly Star City to put up a final resistance. Layers of Buddhist lights spread across the vast Heavenly Star Island sky, covering the entire 500 kilometers of the sea region around Heavenly Star Island. The sound of chanting rang out in every temple, lingering and inspiring the hearts of the people. To the many cultivators defending Heavenly Star City, the tranquil and peaceful chanting of scriptures sounded like demonic music, filling them with despair. Originally, after the Dragon's Gate's heaven-locking formation activated, the Heavenly Star Island cultivators were evenly matched. A partially restored Dragon's Gate's heaven-locking formation was not something that the 8 factions could break. Furthermore, there was still Lan Xiaobai's group, leading 8 King-grade warship. When they charged out, they held back the many people of the 8 factions. The 8 factions could not focus on breaking the formation. The defensive formations of the 7 outpost islets linked together. 7 ancient azure-colored dragon images guarded one area, forming an impregnable defensive perimeter. This rendered the 8 factions helpless. They could only rage out of humiliation as they watched Lan Xiaobai's group enter and leave, destroying their sage-grade warships one by one. However, at this crucial moment, a resonant Buddhist voice rang out. Before Heavenly Star Island's side could understand what was going on, a golden Buddha hand descended from the sky, flickering with a dazzling light. A golden Buddha's hand, flickering with a dazzling light, fell from the sky and smashed heavily on the defensive barrier. The Amitabha Buddha image appeared in the 10,000 layers of Buddha rings. With one palm strike, it shattered the defensive barrier, ripping it with cracks. A significant amount of horrifying energy leaked in through the cracks. Then, it swept through the surroundings like a strong wind, easily destroying the buildings on the outpost islets like they were nothing more than piles of rubble. It could be said that the wind passed without leaving a trace. The place was in a sorry state, looking like rubble. Although the defensive barrier quickly mended, Lan Xiaobai's expression changed drastically. In the end, he decisively chose to retreat, shrinking the defensive perimeter and retreating to Heavenly Star City. On the other side, the 8 factions, who were originally in a predicament, immediately gained momentum. They gave chase and attacked ferociously, working together with the huge Buddha image hovering in the air. As the pursuit continued, a significant amount of energy penetrated the defensive barrier and killed several people of Heavenly Star Island's group. After the barrier shrank by 100 times, its defenses became significantly stronger. The group that retreated to Heavenly Star Island finally stabilized the situation. However, good times did not last. Resonant chanting rang out on the nearby islands of Heavenly Star Island. Bathed in a Buddhist light, the Amitabha Buddha image's strength increased explosively. Every now and then, it would throw a palm strike. The huge palm covered the sky. When it descended, it blocked the boundless sunlight in the sky, shrouding the entire Heavenly Star City in darkness, making everyone anxious. As the 7 blue dragon images circling Heavenly Star City clashed with each other, their bodies grew increasingly illusory. Clearly, they were on the verge of collapsing. The wind howled on the city walls. When Lan Xiaobai saw the 7 blue dragon images descend once more, he frowned heavily. There were only 7 blue dragon locking the sky. It was still too weak. If he could completely repair the formation, with the momentum of 1,000 dragons soaring, even Emperor Wu would have to retreat. Then, he would be able to advance or retreat as he pleased. He would not have to wait for death like now. Chapter 11:27. City Lord, why is the Blue Dragon King not coming out yet? The streets and alleys, the broken pavilions, and the cracks in the city walls were everywhere. The enemy's attacks intensified each time, announcing a heartless fact: the city was about to fall. An outer sect elder could not help asking about Xiao Qun. Lan Xiaobai smiled bitterly to himself as he glanced at this person. He remembered that this was the Grandmaster-level martial sage that Kim Taeho had first hired from the Black Sea. This person had been on Heavenly Star Island for more than a year already and could be considered a veteran. After this person spoke, the group of outer sect elders all looked at Lan Xiaobai. Never mind. You all can go. I left some black astral coins and 2 copies of profound martial techniques in the city lord's residence. After you obtain them, you can leave through the underground passageway. These outer sect elders had already done their best to last until now. After all, compared to Heavenly Star Island, these old men were only consecrated. It was already pretty good that they did not turn against Shao Qin when they saw that the city was about to fall. Hence, they parted on good terms. Now that the situation was already over, there was no need to drag this group of people down with them. When the old man who asked the question heard this, he immediately felt that something was wrong. Something must have happened to the Blue Dragon King, Shao Qin. He probably would not be able to rush back quickly. City Lord, you are overthinking. This old man has watched Heavenly Star Island develop step by step. Although my feelings for Heavenly Star Island are not like those of the inner sect elders and the City Lord, I am willing to defend it to the last moment. Before this city falls, this old man will not take half a step out of Heavenly Star Island. That's right. If this city doesn't fall, we will not leave. To Lan Xiaobai's surprise, the group of outer sect elders did not choose to leave immediately. Instead, they all chose to defend to the last moment. At that time, it would be difficult for them to escape. Lan Xiaobai's expression changed slightly. He smiled and said, "In that case, many thanks to everyone. I hope that everyone will hold fast to your post. If the other party's cultivators charge in through the cracks in the barrier, I will have to trouble everyone." Although most of the Buddha statue's attacks were blocked by the 7 ancient blue dragon images, a small portion of their attacks still hit the barrier. Many cultivators of the 8 factions would take advantage of the crack in the barrier before it mended to charge in. They wanted to attack the root of the problem and destroy the core of the Dragon's Gate's Heavenlock formation. If that happened, Stellar Sky City would fall into the enemy's hands in an instant. Lu Ku, Jin Lin, and the others were guarding the core of the formation, unable to leave. As for the city walls, they needed a large number of people to be the first line of defense. For this group of outer sect elders to say such words, Lan Xiaobai couldn't help but be moved. Whoosh! Lan Xiaobai's figure flashed, and he arrived at a slightly quieter place on the city walls. Elder Qin was circulating his energy to treat Yu Chenxi's injuries there, not stopping for even a moment. "Chenxi, how is she?" Lan Xiaobai asked anxiously, regret flashing in his eyes. Elder Qin did not stop what he was doing. He sighed and said, "Her situation is more or less stable. There is no danger to her life. However, the rebound from her martial technique injured her heart vessels, and her meridians ruptured. Without medicine to heal her meridians, she will probably become an ordinary person." When Lan Xiaobai heard this, he clenched his fists tightly, revealing the veins on the back of his hands. Hatred surged in his eyes. No matter how much Lan Xiaobai hated Fu Lianyun, who had shamelessly injured Yu Chenxi, had a wide smile on his face at this moment. Flattery filled his ears. On the Metal Blood warship, when Zhuang Jinghe heard about Fu Lianyun's magnificent feat, he could not help smiling. "Little brother Fu, good job. After we break into Heavenly Star City, I can let you choose a treasure first." Fu Lianyun felt extremely flattered. He quickly said, I dare not. Brother Zhuang contributed the most. If not for Brother Zhuang rushing over to activate the Amitabha Buddha image, the situation would not be like this. At this moment, the people of the other 8 factions also saw the wind and changed their direction. After seeing the might of the Amitabha Buddha image, they felt a deep fear of Zhuang Jinghe. After all sorts of flattery, they bombarded Zhuang Jinghe with compliments. However, the Blue Dragon King, Shao Qin, seems to have not appeared from the start. I wonder where he went. He probably has something to do. Otherwise, he would not have not appeared until now. Fortunately, he is not here. Otherwise, Heavenly Star Island would not be so easy to break into. Seeing that Heavenly Star City was about to fall, the leaders of the 8 factions felt very relaxed. They chatted without any reservations. Humph! Just at this moment the group heard a cold snort. Zhuang Jinghe said unhappily, Even if Shao Chen comes, this old man can easily kill him. Seeing Zhuang Jinghe's expression change, the others immediately stopped talking, not daring to say anything more. Putting aside the Amitabha Buddha image, Zhuang Jinghe's aura had already reached an unimaginable level. Before him, the other small perfection blue-robed emperors could not help but feel fear. It was not that they had not seen Zhuang Jinghe before. However, the feeling that Zhuang Jinghe gave them today was very different. His aura was terrifyingly strong. These blue-robed emperors did not know why. When they saw Zhuang Jinghe get angry, they all kept quiet out of fear. The Metal Blood Sect's sect master, Chun Ming, changed the topic. The city looks like it is about to fall. Everyone, please make your preparations. The group quickly looked over and saw that the 7 azure dragon images circling outside Heavenly Star City had already turned into azure light that filled the sky and rained down. Everyone in the city looked at the green speck of light with despair on their faces. Everyone knew that without the protection of the 7 blue dragons, the barrier of Heavenly Star City would not be able to withstand a palm strike from the Amitabha Buddha image. Lan Xiaobai bowed slightly. Then, he faced the many outer sect elders who fought to the end and said, "This time, Lan Xiaobai thanks everyone. Let's go." Suddenly, an outer sect elder pointed to the back and exclaimed in pleasant surprise, "City Lord, look!" Lan Xiaobai turned his head and saw a familiar white figure rushing over at lightning speed. Boom! The Amitabha Buddha image's huge hand descended, shrouding the entire Heavenly Star City in darkness. The pitch-black world made everyone in the city feel suffocated with fear and despair, feeling a deep sense of helplessness. Before Lan Xiaobai could clearly see that figure's face, this palm strike shattered the final defensive barrier of the Dragon's Gate's heaven-locking formation. A strong Buddhist might surged over, and the entire city wall instantly crumbled, crumbling completely. All the buildings of various sizes in the city crumbled under this horrifying might. Heavenly Star City, which had taken close to 2 years of effort, was destroyed in an instant. It looked like this palm strike would crush everyone to death or injure them. Suddenly, an unyielding dragon roar resounded in the sky. The dragon's voice reverberated as it roared out, completely suppressing the chanting of scriptures that had not stopped throughout the entire time. The sound waves spread out in all directions, kicking up waves on the surface of the sea. They layered over each other, surging endlessly. With this roar, the Buddha statues worshipped in several of the temples on Heavenly Star Island's subsidiary islands all shattered. A saber light flashed in the pitch-black space, chopping off the Buddha image's palm down the middle. A ray of sunlight shone through the crack. The light was holy and solemn. Under the illumination, a white figure hovered in the air while holding a saber. One man and one saber broke this huge palm filled with Buddhist might. This ray of light seemed to freeze the entire scene, making it hard to forget. After an instant, the huge palm vanished, and sunlight illuminated the land. Heavenly Star City regained its light. The cultivators fighting in the city all clearly saw that figure. If it was not the Blue Dragon King, Shao Chen, who else could it be? It's over. The Blue Dragon King is back. When the people of the 8 factions on the Metal Blood warship that had already arrived at Heavenly Star Island saw this scene, they could not help exclaiming. Who could have expected that Shao Chen, who had not appeared all this while, would appear at this crucial moment? Furthermore, the moment Shao Chen appeared, he chopped off the palm strike that rivaled a peak consummation blue-robed emperor's attack. How could they not feel fear? Zhuang Jinghe shouted coldly and angrily, "What are you all panicking for? I am not even afraid. What are you all afraid of?" Chen Ming knew that the leaders of the other factions still had some value, so he consoled them at an appropriate time. Don't exaggerate his strength. He just used a trick, using a sound wave to break the Buddhist sound. That is how he managed to barely block it, reducing the might of the palm strike significantly. Given Brother Zhuang's strength, it is more than enough to deal with him. Furthermore, the Amitabha Buddha image is not that easy to break. Zhuangxing has said, "That's right. Just help me block those small fries later. There is no need for you to worry about the rest." Fu Lianyun and the others calmed down. At this moment there was no turning back. They could only fight to the death. After chopping off the Amitabha Buddha image with one saber strike and sending it into the clouds, Xiao Chen did not take advantage of the situation to give chase. Xiao Chen looked around at the ruined Heavenly Star City and quickly landed beside Lan Xiaobai. When Lan Xiaobai saw Xiao Chen land, a guilty expression flashed on his face. He said, "Sorry, I still failed to defend this city." Xiao Chen patted Lan Xiaobai's shoulder and said, "Don't say that. I'm the one apologizing to you. You did your best and did very well. Chenxi, what happened to her?" Xiao Chen's gaze shifted to Yu Chenxi, who was being guarded by Elder Qin. His face sank as he asked immediately. Lan Xiaobai quickly recounted the events that transpired. After Xiao Chen finished, he suddenly discovered that the surrounding air suddenly turned bone-chilling, a bone-chilling killing intent that made him tremble involuntarily. When Xiao Chen came out of the Dragon's Gate treasure trove, he sensed the extraordinary atmosphere of Heavenly Star Island, so he rushed over before Emochin did. What a despicable and shameless old fogey! Even when Xiao Chen saw the ruined Heavenly Star City, he still managed to control his killing intent. When Xiao Chen heard Lan Xiaobai's description, he could no longer control his killing intent. Lan Xiaobai was still fine. After all, he had the cultivation of the blue-robed emperor and was an outstanding talent. This killing intent could not injure Xiao Chen. However, those outer sect elders did not have it easy. Whoosh! Emochin, who was slightly slower than Xiao Chen, arrived. When she saw Xiao Chen's state, she immediately said anxiously, "Big brother Xiao, you injured them." Chapter 11:28. Xiao Chen startled to his senses. Lan Xiaobai and the many outer sect cultivators standing on the rubble of the city walls all heaved a sigh of relief. "I startled everyone," Xiao Chen said, feeling some self-blame. His mental state was still not perfect enough. One could not be without anger. One could have killing intent as well. However, killing intent had to be controlled. Otherwise, as one grew stronger and stood higher, one might fall into the demonic Tao at any moment. When the many outer sect elders saw Xiao Chen's sincere apology, they all said that he did not need to take it to heart and that they understood. At the same time, they felt somewhat surprised. The famous Blue Dragon King did not put on any airs. However, when they thought about it, that was not right. Earlier, when Xiao Chen was bathed in light, he gave off an aura that was no weaker than that of some famous major characters. He was a person filled with contradictions, unfathomable. Xiao Chen thought of something and asked, "Emochin, are the king-grade medicinal pills in the Dragon's Gate treasure trove useful for mending meridians?" "There are 3, and they are all of peak quality. After mending them, the toughness of the meridians can increase by another level." Emochin was the one who collected the treasures in the secret room. She was rather familiar with them, so she immediately mentioned them. Xiao Chen's anxious emotions eased slightly. He looked at the sky. The Amitabha Buddha image, which had been temporarily knocked back by the Buddhist light, had already retreated into the light. However, Xiao Chen knew that the Amitabha Buddha image, which possessed the power of faith, would recover from that minor injury in no time. Withdrawing his gaze, Xiao Chen looked at Emochin. Just as he was about to speak, Emochin smiled softly and said, "I know what you want. You want to take this opportunity to uproot all the factions on Black Flame Island, completely ending this calamity." After experiencing life and death in the Cloud Sea domain, the two had worked very well together during their trip to the Dragon's Gate treasure trove. Emochin said everything she wanted to say, saving Xiao Chen a lot of explaining. He looked at her and said, "Be careful." Emochin smiled faintly and left calmly. Her target was Zhuangxinghe's lair, Black Flame Island. When Xiao Chen broke through to great perfection Blue-Robed Emperor, Emochin had found a weakness in the Minor Lane Temple's secret manual for gathering the power of faith. The weakness was in the enlightened sense temple, which Chen had been to before. That was the source of the other party's power of faith. Then, he would use the method in the secret manual to return the power of faith, and this insufferably powerful Amitabha Buddha would immediately become a rootless duckweed. Given Imo-chen's strength, as long as she was careful and did not enter the palace hall, she should be able to kill all the enemies on Black Flame Island while Zhuangxinghe and the Amitabha Buddha statue left. Benefactor Xiao, Xiao Chun, we meet again. Benefactor Xiao, we meet, said. Of Chun. Chun, ss to say, we meet again of Chunel will. Benefactor Xiao, we meet again. Zhuangxinghe looked at Xiao Chen with a smile. No one could sense any murderous intent. If not for Xiao Chen having a deep understanding of Zhuangxinghe, he might have been fooled by this smiling Buddha. The group of outer sect elders on the city walls acted as if they were facing a great enemy. They quickly gathered behind Xiao Chen and watched anxiously as the 8 blue-robed emperors and Zhuangxinghe pressed in. You should be clearer than anyone else on how strong the Amitabha Buddha is. If you are smart, quickly scram and return to your Kunlun continent. Otherwise, this ruined city before you will be your grave. Zhuangxinghe maintained a smile on his face. However, even a fool could make out the murderous intent in his words. Xiao Chen could not be bothered with Zhuangxinghe. He swept his gaze across the various blue-robed emperors and asked indifferently, "Who is Fu Lianyun?" Xiao Chen's indifferent words made the hearts of the leaders of the 8 factions sink for some reason. When they looked over, the murderous intent in Xiao Chen's eyes seemed to pour into their bodies, giving them a chill. From the changes in their expressions, Xiao Chen managed to find Fu Lianyun in one breath. Very good. You can die now. Zhuangxinghe was stunned. He quickly moved to the side, trying to block Xiao Chen. However, who knew, Xiao Chen did not choose to charge over. He only leaped up, and his body seemed to vanish into thin air. When he landed, the lunar shadow saber's scabbard was already stabbed into Fu Lianyun's chest. No matter how Fu Lianyun struggled, it was useless. The others were greatly startled. They had not expected Xiao Chen to be so bold, daring to jump into their encirclement alone. You are seeking death. The Metal Blood Sect's sect master, Chun Ming, was the first to react. He led his people to surround Xiao Chen, moving as fast as lightning. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of 7 or 8 figures tearing through the air was ear-piercing. At such a close distance, they would need only half a second to land their attacks on Xiao Chen. Even a consummation blue-robed emperor would be severely injured after receiving the attacks of so many blue-robed emperors. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiao Chen showed no intention of dodging. Holding the scabbard, he stabbed Fu Lianyun into the ground, leaving no chance of survival. Following Fu Lianyun's miserable cry, blood spurted out of his wound like a fountain, blooming like a flower. At this moment, Xiao Chen unleashed the vast aura of the great perfection blue-robed emperor without holding anything back. The people charging over all revealed shocked expressions as they felt a vast aura. They only felt a huge aura that felt solid and surged out in all directions, blowing them away. Caught off guard, even Zhuangxinghe could not block it. He had to take 100 steps back before he could stabilize himself. Zhuangxinghe glanced back and saw the sorry state of the crowd. Then, he stood up and drew his scabbard. Xiao Chen gently drifted away and somersaulted to the ground. He said indifferently, "Sorry, I do not like to be disturbed when I am killing people." The dying Fu Lianyun on the ground pressed his hands on his wound. His face was filled with horror and helplessness. Fu Lianyun did his best to raise his head and look at Zhuangxinghe with some hope. He did his best to say, "Save me." However, no one cared about him at this moment. The group of small perfection blue-robed emperors gathered behind Zhuangxinghe. They all looked at Xiao Chen warily. No one noticed his gaze. No one had expected Xiao Chen to break through to the great perfection blue-robed emperor realm. His aura was like a mountain, completely surpassing theirs. Even the great perfection blue-robed Emperor Zhuang and the metal blood sex Chen Ming could not compare to Xiao Chen in terms of aura. Zhuang did not say a word. He squinted as though he wanted to see through Xiao Chen. However, he could not figure out Xiao Chen's strength at all. Chen Ming sent a voice projection to Xiao Chen and drew his saber. Then, he pushed off the ground and charged at Xiao Chen. The other 6 small perfection blue-robed emperors all drew their weapons and charged over, radiating killing chi. At this point, they knew that there was no way out. Even if they begged for mercy, there would not be a good result. They could only fight and defeat Xiao Chen. Only then could they survive. Xiao Chen waved his hand, indicating that Lan Xiaobai and the others did not need to make a move. He took a step forward and blocked Chen Ming's saber strike without drawing it. After reaching the blue-robed Emperor realm, every move could stir up the wind and clouds. In 2 or 3 breaths, he could change his moves dozens of times. Dang! 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 The 7 worked together to block Xiao Chen's horrifying aura. They surrounded Xiao Chen and attacked him. Saber lights and sword images flashed, and sparks flew everywhere. They kicked up strong winds and stirred up the clouds. Because of the surging power of the world, the scene in the surroundings looked like a geomancy painting flashing by the group of people. Xiao Chen's figure leaped around, fighting 1 against 7. Without drawing his saber, he formed an impenetrable defense, blocking the attacks of the 7. Of the 7 people before him, aside from Chen Ming, who was slightly difficult to deal with. As for the other 6, as long as they drew their sabers, Xiao Chen could take them down in an instant. However, there was still Zhuang, who was eyeing Xiao Chen like a tiger, storing up power and waiting to make a move. Once he figured out Xiao Chen's strength, he would make a swift move. This time, when Xiao Chen saw Zhuang, he could clearly feel that Zhuang's strength had improved compared to a month ago. Logically speaking, this was an abnormal improvement. Even if one could use the power of faith to convert it into cultivation, it would be impossible for one to improve so quickly. There was only one possibility. After thinking about the ritual recorded in the secret canon, Xiao Chen had a vague guess. He would not think about it for now. He would play with this group of people. Either he would not make a move, or he would take down Zhuang when he did. After Chen Ming's attack failed, he was forced back by Xiao Chen again. Then, he immediately launched a frantic counterattack, provoking Xiao Chen. Blue Dragon King, you are really boundlessly arrogant. Do you really think that you can take down the 6 of us without even drawing your saber? As Chen Ming spoke, the other 6 small perfection blue-robed emperor made their move. All sorts of killing moves flashed with multicolored lights, bringing with them all sorts of mysterious phenomena. They surged towards Xiao Chen like an erupting mountain flood, their auras startling. Xiao Chen did not answer. His eyes were like lightning, clearly seeing the trajectories of the 6th attack. The lunar shadow saber in his hand seemed to come to life. It was like a third arm, nimbly moving around his palm and the back of his arm. Bang! Bang! Metallic sounds rang out, sounding like thunder. Xiao Chen still did not draw his saber. As he retreated, he blocked all the moves of the 6. It was like there was an unbreakable, formless wall in front of Xiao Chen. As long as he wanted to, not even a strand of wind would be able to penetrate it. The first spurt of vigor would weaken, and the third would be exhausted. The principles of the art of war in Xiao Chen's hometown were the same in the world of cultivators. Under Xiao Chen's exquisite defense, Chen Ming's group attacked for a long time but could not take him down. Initially, they were like ferocious tigers. Now they were completely sluggish. Their moves were full of openings. Zhuang felt frustrated. Even now, he still could not figure out Xiao Chen's strength. He cursed this group of people in his heart. They were all trash. Xiao Chen, you are called the Blue Dragon King in vain. You are being beaten until you cannot even retaliate. Chen Ming knew about Zhuang's arrangements. When he saw that he still could not force Xiao Chen to draw his saber, he tried to provoke him again. Very good. The other party's mental state is already in chaos. His aura is weakening. It is time to end this farce. As you wish. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes, and a cold light flickered in them. His gaze was like a saber, boundlessly sharp. With just a single glance, the six of them felt a chill run down their spines. As his long hair fluttered, boundless saber hums came from Xiao Chen's body. At this moment, his body was like a saber, his hair was like a saber, his clothes were like a saber, and his gaze was like a saber. Xiao Chen, who had been passively defending, suddenly started running. His clothes were as white as snow, and his figure was as fast as the wind. In the wind and snow, he quickly charged at the seven. Chapter 11:29. Dang, dang, dang. Saber hums reverberated in the air, sounding like the most beautiful zither music in the world. Xiao Chen dodged Qin Ming's saber and closed in, not giving him a chance to react. Then, he slammed his shoulder into Qin Ming's body. A horrifying saber wound appeared on Qin Ming's chest. He vomited a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, severely injured, no longer able to fight. It was fine if Xiao Chen did not make a move. However, once he did, Xiao Chen would not give this group of people any chance. Xiao Chen waved his long sleeves, and the saber arm of a person charging at Xiao Chen from the left was chopped off by a saber light. However, the saber in Xiao Chen's right hand clearly did not leave its scabbard. Xiao Chen did not stop running. With every step he took, boundless saber lights flickered. Everywhere Xiao Chen went, saber lights flashed endlessly, mysterious phenomena appeared, and wind and snow danced. No one could stop Xiao Chen. With every step he took, someone went flying and vomited blood, no longer able to fight. After Xiao Chen took 7 steps, 7 people fell to the ground, unable to get up. They lay there moaning in pain. Those with light injuries had broken limbs, and those with heavy injuries had fainted from the pain. When Xiao Chen attacked, he did not show any mercy. Without stopping, Xiao Chen's figure flashed and arrived before the stunned Zhuang Jinghe. At this moment, Xiao Chen defeated 7 people. His aura had reached its peak. When he moved, it felt like the entire world moved with him. Zhuang Jinghe, who had been waiting for Xiao Chen to draw his saber, wanting to find some openings and deal a lightning-quick blow to Xiao Chen, was caught off guard. This aura sent him flying. However, Zhuang Jinghe's cultivation was extremely horrifying, even stronger than the newly advanced great perfection blue-robed Emperor Xiao Chen. Zhuang Jinghe's face sank as he stomped heavily on the ground. The ground trembled, and a scarlet Bodhi tree took root behind him. Rings of scarlet Buddhist light appeared behind him. Buddhist chanting resounded, and the Bodhi tree moved without any wind. Many scarlet Bodhi flowers floated out. Boundless power of faith gathered, and one could vaguely hear horrifying cries. Those were the aggrieved spirits in hell. Zhuang Jinghe stretched out his palm and wanted to throw a palm strike, wanting to knock down Xiao Chen's aura. However, how could Xiao Chen, who was in his peak state, give him such an opportunity? The instant he landed, Xiao Chen drew his lunar shadow saber, which he had not drawn yet. A saber hum resounded throughout the world. The resplendent saber light made the world pale in comparison. Spring flowers, winter snow, summer, autumn wind, blue dragon breaking the sea, the bright moon soaring. The boundless mysterious phenomena materialized a boundless glory in that instant. Then, the saber light solidified into a vast painting. The scarlet Bodhi tree instantly crumbled. This saber strike sent Zhuang Jinghe flying back 1 kilometer. The Buddhist light scattered, and he was in a sorry state. The wound on his chest nearly cut him in half at the waist. In just 7 steps and 1 blade, this group of people had been heavily injured by Xiao Chen's thunderous momentum. As Xiao Chen watched Zhuang Jinghe fly back in a sorry state, he did not relax his guard. The Amitabha Buddha image hidden in the clouds was the greatest threat to the entire heavenly star island. After such a long time, it should have already recovered from Xiao Chen's saber strike. After all, it was just an injury to the palm, not a major one. If Xiao Chen was willing to expend the power of faith, it could recover in a moment. However, for some reason, Zhuang Jinghe did not bring out the Buddha image. Even after he killed the leaders of the 8 factions until they could not put up a fight, he did not bring it out. Perhaps in Zhuang Jinghe's eyes, these factions were just pawns. Their lives had nothing to do with him. However, Zhuang Jinghe had been severely injured by Xiao Chen's saber strike. If he still did not bring out the Amitabha Buddha image, he would be killed by Xiao Chen. Even if he did not want to come out, he had no choice but to do so. Xiao Chen held up his saber and stood upright. He did not give chase, just waited quietly. The heavenly seal in Xiao Chen's dantian was already completely formed. It looked like a blue dragon. As it breathed, strands of formless heavenly laws appeared behind Xiao Chen. There was a total of 10,000 of them, surging in all directions like a great river. Before reaching Emperor Wu's level, one could not even form a circle with their heavenly laws. One would not be able to use the power of the world as they pleased. Now, Xiao Chen had reached great perfection blue-robed emperor. All the accumulations that he had laid before advancing to blue-robed emperor erupted out now. With a thought from 10,000 heavenly laws, they could drive the power of the world. How horrifying was that! It could break mountains and rivers, shatter the sky. Every action of Xiao Chen's contained an invisible aura that suppressed cultivators of the same cultivation realm. One look from him could make his opponent tremble in fear. It had been a long time since Zhuang Jinghe advanced to great perfection blue-robed emperor. Now, he used the ritual to strengthen himself further. Zhuang Jinghe's cultivation was clearly much higher than Xiao Chen's. However, the quantity and quality of his heavenly laws, as well as his aura, were far inferior to Xiao Chen's. This was the gap that came from accumulations and accumulations. The further one went, the more obvious this gap would become. When one reached Emperor Wu's level, it would be clear who was superior. Whoosh! As Xiao Chen watched, a Buddhist light suddenly shot down from the sky and fixed Zhuang Jinghe in place. Then, the Buddhist light started to treat his injuries. The horrifying saber wound on Zhuang Jinghe's chest healed at a visible pace amid the Buddhist light. After suffering a saber strike, Zhuang Jinghe did not show any anger on his face. After he clearly saw Xiao Chen's strength, he laughed maniacally. Zhuang Jinghe walked over step by step in the air. Then, he said coldly, "Xiao Chen, is this your strength? If this is all you have, you will find it hard to escape death today. The Buddha has a merciful heart. However, when the Buddha gets angry, no one can stop him." A Buddhist voice resounded, and the Amitabha Buddha image that terrified Heavenly Star Islands group broke through the clouds and reappeared. As the golden light descended, every corner of the ruined Stellar Sky City was illuminated by the Buddha light. Right after Zhuang Jinghe spoke, the Amitabha Buddha image struck out with another palm strike. The palm covered the sky. If this palm strike landed, everyone in the rubble of Heavenly Star City would be injured. I absolutely cannot let this palm strike land. I absolutely cannot let the many fellow cultivators of Heavenly Star Island get injured. Xiao Chen roared ferociously and executed the dragon tone art. He materialized the blue dragon battle armor as he held the lunar shadow saber and soared into the sky, clashing ferociously with the palm strike. Boom! A resplendent saber light flew out and chopped the palm in half again. However, this time, the Buddha did not retreat. Instead, it sent out another palm strike, carrying the weight of heaven and earth. When this palm strike descended, the entire sky seemed to be pressed down. Die! Zhuang Jinghe already had a good grasp of Xiao Chen's strength. Right now, Xiao Chen was already unrivaled among the great perfection blue-robed emperors. However, he was still no match for a consummation blue-robed emperor. Zhuang Jinghe could not execute the dragon tone art continuously. As for the Amitabha Buddha image, as long as Zhuang Jinghe continuously exhausted the power of faith, It would be sufficient to grind the other party to death. When this palm strike landed, it would severely injure Xiao Chun. However, just as this palm strike was about to strike Xiao Chun, an ancient Buddha image appeared behind Xiao Chun. It had 8 arms, protecting Xiao Chun's chest, navel, and other vital areas. The Buddha image was not as huge as the Amitabha Buddha image. It only had an ancient aura that was reserved and peaceful, filled with benevolence. The palm protecting Xiao Chun's chest swung back and forcefully smacked the Amitabha Buddha image's palm back. When the two Buddha images clashed, the entire sky started to tremble intensely like the sea. Waves surged, shattering the boundless clouds. Bang! 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 The Amitabha Buddha image exhausted the power of faith. As it bathed in the Buddhist light, it recovered its right hand. When the palm strike landed, it was once again smacked back by the palm protecting Xiao Chun. This repeated 8 times, exhausting a boundless amount of power of faith. However, the Amitabha Buddha image's 8 attacks did not succeed even once. Instead, after exhausting the power of faith, the Buddhist light encasing the surroundings dimmed significantly. The originally resonant Buddhist sound became like the buzzing of a mosquito, not showing any might at all. Zhuangzhenghe appeared extremely shocked. His eyes even appeared somewhat dazed. This is the Buddhist sect's holy item, the 8-armed Buddhist pendant. How did it end up in your hands? Xiao Chun did not answer Zhuangzhenghe. He knew that this was the best opportunity to make a move. Whether he could successfully kill the Amitabha Buddha image or not would depend on this saber strike. Otherwise, by the time the other party recovered, the Buddhist pendant would have already used up all 8 chances. At that time, he would be in big trouble. Xiao Chun pushed off the air and swung his saber. 18 blue dragons circled him and roared together. The dragon roars shook the sky and scattered the remaining Buddhist sound. This was Xiao Chun's strongest saber technique, subduing dragon profound slash. As the saber light flew out, a towering saber light chopped at the Amitabha Buddha image, seeking to kill it in one strike. If you want to kill it in one strike, you have to get past me first. When Zhuangzhenghe saw the situation, he cursed angrily and leaped up, wanting to block this saber light for the Amitabha Buddha image. As long as the Amitabha Buddha image remained, he could recover from his injuries, no matter how severe. When Lan Xiaobai, Jin Lin, and the others saw this scene, their expressions changed. They all knew that they absolutely could not let Zhuangzhenghe succeed at this crucial moment. Otherwise, when the Buddha image recovered, no one would have a good ending. All of them soared into the air, and used their strongest killing moves to charge at Zhuangzhenghe. As long as he dared to continue advancing, the attacks of the many profound martial techniques would kill him on the spot. Damn it! Zhuangzhenghe cursed and stopped moving. Then, he sent out a palm strike to face the attacks of Lan Xiaobai and the others. 2 loud rumbles resounded at the same time. Zhuangzhenghe attacked with his full power, sweeping through the surroundings. Lan Xiaobai and the others were all knocked back. However, on the other side, Xiao Chun chopped the Amitabha Buddha image in half. All the Buddhist light vanished in an instant, and the annoying Buddhist chanting vanished as well. Bang! Xiao Chun descended amid the boundless saber lights and hacked at Zhuangzhenghe repeatedly. After 100 moves, he knocked Zhuangzhenghe into the air with one kick. Before Zhuangzhenghe could get back up, Xiao Chun's figure flashed, and he landed. Then, he placed the lunar shadow saber on Zhuangzhenghe's neck. Zhuangzhenghe coughed and vomited a large mouthful of blood. Then, he smiled with a somewhat sinister expression. You cannot kill me. My dermic incarnation is on Black Flame Island. As long as my dermic incarnation is not destroyed, I do not care about this body of mine. Lan Xiaobai and the others came over. When they heard this, they could not help but feel shocked. They had managed to restrain this person after much difficulty. In the end, they still could not do anything to him. That was simply too unreasonable. Xiao Chun, is that so? The others asked anxiously. Xiao Chun nodded and said, That's right. However, He will soon not be able to laugh anymore. Zhuang Jinghe laughed maniacally and said, "How can I not be able to laugh anymore? I will self-detonate now and you will all die with me. When I make a comeback, Heavenly Star Island will still be mine." After saying that, Zhuang Jinghe's body swelled up like a balloon. The blood vessels on his skin were clearly visible. Horrifying energy brewed in his body. Chapter 1130. When the others saw the situation, they quickly scattered. The horrifying energy from the self-detonation of a great perfection martial sage was not something they could endure. Xiao Chen did not retreat. Based on his calculations, Immortal should be almost done with Black Flame Island. Zhuang Jinghe's dermic incarnation would not last much longer. Even if Immortal did not deal with him, Xiao Chen could not retreat. He had to block most of the force when she self-destructed. He could not let the other cultivators of Heavenly Star Island come to harm. Xiao Chen's physical body had already reached the peak of a sage body. Furthermore, he had the Blue Dragon body nourishing Art's Blue Dragon battle armor. He would not suffer much damage from Zhuang Jinghe's self-detonation. Suddenly, horror appeared on the crazed Zhuang Jinghe's face. He quickly stopped self-detonating in a fluster, his body deflating like a balloon. Not only did he stop self-destructing, but his cultivation also dropped from the Great Perfection Blue-Robed Emperor to the Small Perfection Blue-Robed Emperor. It kept dropping until it reached the peak Great Grandmaster. "You broke my source of faith. How is that possible? How did you know the weakness of the power of faith?" Zhuang Jinghe looked at Xiao Chen, his face filled with disbelief. How could Xiao Chen know such a secret? Xiao Chen pressed the tip of his saber against the other party's neck. His eyes remained calm as he said indifferently, "You don't have to worry about how I know. Tell me honestly how you obtained the Buddhist inheritance, and I'll give you a quick death." Zhuang Jinghe, who wanted to say something, suddenly stopped breathing. His eyes turned lifeless, and his heart stopped beating. He died just like that. Xiao Chen's expression changed, and he bent down to check. The other party's body was still warm, and there were no obvious injuries. His meridians, heart, and lungs were all intact, and there were no signs of suicide. This was the appearance of a spirit being destroyed. The spirit left in this body had been forcibly erased by someone. Xiao Chen raised his head and looked at Black Flame Island. Something must have happened there. "Xiao Chen, what should we do with these people?" Lan Xiaobai sent people to bring the leaders of the 8 major forces to Xiao Chen. Among the leaders of the 8 factions, other than Fu Lianyun, who was gravely injured and on the brink of death, the others suffered light injuries, only losing the ability to fight. For the blue-robed emperor, as long as it was not a fatal injury, he would be able to recover. Hearing Lan Xiaobai's words, a group of people looked at Xiao Chen. Other than the Iron Blood Clan's clan leader Qin Ming, everyone else started begging for mercy. "Blue Dragon King, we were reckless this time. We are willing to compensate for the losses of Blue Dragon City." "That's right, we're willing to give up all of our family's assets, as long as you let us live." There was a glimmer of hope in Fu Lianyun's eyes. She said weakly, "Blue Dragon King, please let us go. I, Fu Lianyun, promise you that from now on, I will bring my family far away from home and be an ordinary person." "Family?" Xiao Chen let out a soft sound of surprise and said indifferently, "I'm afraid you don't have any family." "What do you mean?" "Xiao Chen, you can't be that ruthless. There is justice in the world. Family should not be implicated. Don't tell me you can't even abide by this rule. Be careful of the older generation. If they can't stand it, they might take action against you." Hearing this, the expressions of the group changed greatly. They became agitated and roared with ferocious expressions. That's right. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, there were no saints. There was no reason. Whoever had the bigger fist was the truth. This was especially so in the chaotic Western Sea. However, most people had a bottom line. Not implicating family was an unwritten rule. As long as one was not an evil cultivator or a demon, they would not do such a heartless thing. Although Xiao Chun sentenced these people to death in his heart, he did not intend to touch their families. He looked around and fixed his gaze on Chun Ming. He said calmly, "Don't overthink. I was not the one who did it. Sect Master Chun should be clear on what happened." "Chun Ming, what's going on? Our family is really all dead?" the others asked Chun Ming anxiously as they looked at him. When Chun Ming heard their questions, he laughed loudly and said, "That's right. Your family is indeed dead, including the ordinary people on the island. They all died in Zhuang Zhenghe's purification ceremony. Don't blame anyone. If you want to blame something, blame yourselves for being greedy. The winner becomes king, and the loser becomes a bandit. From the day you stepped onto the path of cultivation, you should have understood this. I, Chun Ming, was also greedy. I believed that Zhuang Zhenghe had some way to advance to martial emperor. I was extremely naive. There are no shortcuts on the path to martial emperor. Blue Dragon King, I will be leaving first. I will wait for you 4 years from now." Ha 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 ha. As the Metal Blood Sect's clan leader laughed maniacally, Chun Ming vomited a mouthful of blood. He had broken his own heart veins and died of a shattered heart. The other people of the 8 factions turned ashen. They could not accept this fact as they muttered to themselves. This was especially so for Fu Lianyun. When he thought about his initial actions, he found them laughable. Fu Lianyun had disgraced himself and risked his life. Behind him, Zhuang Zhenghe hunted down his family. What could be more lamentable than this? The more Fu Lianyun thought about it, the more stifled he felt. Fu Lianyun, who was already on the verge of death, could no longer hold on. He fell over, his life force severed, and he stopped breathing. Looking at the leaders of the other factions, Xiao Chun did not feel any sympathy. He said indifferently, "Kill them." The group of small perfection blue-robed emperor cultivators suppressed by Chun Ming raised his saber, and blood spurted out. The few small perfection blue-robed emperors who invaded Heavenly Star Island and reduced Heavenly Star City to rubble, killing many cultivators, all died. The path to martial emperor was paved with blood and corpses. If I do not kill today, someone will definitely kill me tomorrow, injure my friends, and destroy my family. The heart of an emperor does not allow one to hesitate or panic. One must be decisive in killing. Xiao Chun stood side by side with Lan Xiaobai, looking at the rubble of Heavenly Star City. The two chatted softly, their eyes filled with pity. Heavenly Star City had just been established, and it already faced such a calamity. Furthermore, this was before the Dragon's Gates mountain tablet was erected. If they erected the Dragon's Gates signboard and announced it to the world, who knew what kind of waves it would cause? As the cold wind howled, Xiao Chun seemed to see a scene of the future. Killing and blood flowed endlessly. A city of iron and blood stood amid the flames of war until the end. No one dared to invade it. As Xiao Chun looked at Lan Xiaobai, who stood shoulder to shoulder with him, he felt very moved. Back then, in the Haotian sect, when Shui Lingling told Xiao Chun that Lan Xiaobai and the other two wanted to follow him, Xiao Chun could not believe it. He was sure that Lan Xiaobai was just playing around. Lan Xiaobai was an outstanding talent of the Azura race, an ancient race. His status was no lower than that of the Holy Scions. How could he be willing to follow a person with an unpredictable future? A long journey tests a horse's stamina, and time reveals a person's heart. The saying of his hometown could be said to be the best example when applied to Lan Xiaobai. At this point, there was no longer any need to prove whether Lan Xiaobai was sincere or not. "Xiaobai, get the people below to come out. The matter at Black Flame Island should be resolved already," Xiao Chun said when he sensed Emo Chen's figure flying over at an extremely fast speed. The vast and complicated tunnels under Heavenly Star City were personally built by Lord Jiu. He had already rendered meritorious service countless times. If not for Lord Jiu's tunnels, Who knew how many ordinary people would have died under the Amitabha Buddha's palm strike? Lan Xiaobai nodded and quickly made arrangements. Then, he took his leave. Whoosh! Imochen landed beside Xiaochen. Fatigue appeared in her eyes. However, Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief. Imochen was not severely injured. The matter at Black Flame Island is resolved. The Enlightened Sense Temple is already destroyed. I killed all of Zhuang Jinghe's subordinates in the city. The rest all fled. Imochen explained the matter at Black Flame Island. Xiaochen nodded and said, however, something happened to Zhuang Jinghe's dermic incarnation, right? Shock flashed in Imochen's eyes. She asked, how did you know? There was actually a Buddha head hidden in the Enlightened Sense Temple. At the last moment, it swallowed up Zhuang Jinghe's dermic incarnation. I do not know whether it is dead or alive. Buddha head? A strange light flashed in Xiaochen's eyes. He thought of something, and his heart skipped a beat. That's right. It is a Buddha head. It is a lone Buddha head without a body. It looks very ancient. Even though it's very weak now, I couldn't stop it and let it escape. Xiaochen cared a lot about Buddha heads. The moment he heard about Buddha heads, he thought of the headless Kittagarbha Bodhisattva in the 9 layers of purgatory. There was also the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's frightening specter. He would often roam the Yellow Springs Road, searching for his head. No one dared to look back. If his guess was right, and this head was really the head that the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva King was searching for, then it would be a little scary. The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva, who had been beheaded by the Qing Emperor 10,000 years ago, was still alive. Furthermore, he had found a successor and was starting to stir up trouble. Just thinking about it was a headache. In particular, he was inextricably linked to the Qing Emperor. The cause of the past was the effect of the present. The cycle of cause and effect had never been broken. Now that Xiaochen thought about it, Zhuang Jinghe's choice of Heavenly Star Island to spread his religion was not intentional. Fortunately, this Buddha head was still very weak right now. Since Imochen could deal with it, there was no need to worry too much for now. However, the future was hard to say. Furthermore, this was just Xiaochen's guess. It might not be the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's head. Big Brother Xiao, what's wrong? Do you know something about the origins of this Buddha head? Imochen asked out of curiosity. Xiaochen collected his thoughts and nodded. I know a little. However, I will have to personally make a trip there to find out the specifics. Let's not care about it for now. Right now, this place is giving me a headache. Imochen looked at the Heavenly Star City residents coming out of the underground tunnels, amid the rubble. She agreed with Xiaochen. The great battle had turned their homes into rubble, making them homeless. Some of them even had relatives and children who were cultivators who lost their lives in the battle. It was a tragedy. There were more than 2 million residents in Heavenly Star City. Stabilizing so many people in one go was not a simple matter. Xiaochen would be very busy for a long time in the future. Big Brother Xiao, I would like to build Heaven Dragon City on these rubble, Imochen said after looking for a long time. Then, she made a bold suggestion. Xiaochen felt excited. Since the city was destroyed, he had to build a new one. Taking this opportunity to build Heaven Dragon City was indeed a good opportunity.